Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's South Burlington Special City Council meeting for June 17th, 2026. We will start our agenda with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Jesse, will you lead us to this? One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 2, instructions on exiting this building in case of emergency and review of technology options. Jesse Baker.
Great. So thank you all for being here this morning. It's one of my favorite days of the year. If there is an emergency during this meeting, you can go out to either corner of the building and go down the stairs. On this corner of the building, there is refuge, is that how you call it? Refuge area. If you have being down the stairs. For those participating remotely, thank you for joining us as well. If you'd like to talk during any item on the agenda, you can use the raise hand function and I'll have the chair call on you, or indicate that you would like to make a comment in the Q&A of the webinar. Other than that, we are not monitoring the Q&A for content.
Great. Thank you. Item 3, which is, are there any additions, deletions, or changes in the order of our agenda items today? Seems how there are none. We will move on to item 4, which is comments and questions from the public not related to the agenda, or maybe related to the agenda, but you can't stay the whole day, perhaps. Are there any from the public? Are you in the back, sir?
My name is
by yourself, please.
My name is Bo Denham. I'm on the HOA in South Village, and I'm here asking the city to prioritize the construction of a recreational element in South Village. In the summer of 2024, a MOU was drawn up outlining how this process would proceed, and nothing has happened since then. We would like to finalize that MOU and begin construction on that project as soon as possible. And just one note, it's often referred to as a recreational element. The majority of the residents of South Village have identified a playground as being the best recreational element, the best use of the money that's been set aside in escrow for this project.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Denham. Thanks. Anybody else from the public? I do have an email from Bob Britt from the Bike and Ped Committee, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, just highlight what he wanted to say, which he couldn't because he's off visiting their new grandson. So he wanted to be able to work with the DPW to improve the safety of some of the city's intersections. He also wanted to support the committee's efforts to work with Chief Bro and Colin McNeil to update the bike-related ordinances in support of our e-bike safety plan. And finally, if the selection of capital projects are to be listed in the FY27 P&S, it would be great to list the 3 projects that are listed in the work plan: the Spear Street shared use path from Swift to Forest path, the South Dorset Street shared use path from Old Cross State Lane, and the crosswalk at the intersection of Songbird and Dorset. The committee is very concerned that it would be harder for the city to get voter approval if they don't show progress on these for Pat's projects this coming fiscal year. That was from Bob Britt. Any other public comment? Right, then we will move to item 5, which is hold a working meeting and discussion of the FY27 policy, priorities, and strategies. At a future date, the council will consider approval of that final draft. Jesse Baker, City Manager.
Great. So as you have often heard me say before, I get to do a lot of the talking today, but I do that on behalf of the full leadership team who is here as well. And they are not shy and will feel free to chime in as needed. So this is what we propose to be the agenda for today. Just a reminder that the goal really today is to discuss the high level strategic things we're going to do together to implement the city plan. What we're not necessarily trying to do today is have the actual policy discussions. We're trying to outline what are the discussions we want to have in the future, what are the actions we want to take in the future. So I think we should have a bit of a conversation about this structure and see if it works for folks. But before and I'd like to give a little background of what's here. But before we do that, I think it might be a good idea to do some introductions because we do have some new faces at the table. Is everyone good with that? So I think, I haven't given anybody a heads up about this. I think ideally people would share their name, their role here at this table today, and a sentence or two about the kind of professional or service work they bring to the table. That are people okay with that? And I can start and give you an example. So my name's Jessie Baker. I serve as the city manager here in South Burlington. I am 5 years and 17 days into my service with South Burlington. But I have about 20 years in municipal management.
Stephen Locke, serve as the deputy city manager slash fire chief. I've been in municipal government for about 35 years.
I'm Roxy, leader manager. I'm here to support the PNS process, and notes and helping to organize on policy business strategies to some of those comments. I've been in municipal government for about a year and a half now. However, I worked in data management and data governance for.
I'm one of the role police chief. I've been a police officer for almost 28 years. I've been here for about 8 months.
Chris Corbin, I'm the deputy fire chief. I've been here 22 years and have some municipal government experience.
One of my JP developer director. I've been here 14 years. I have 25 years in local government, and I work mainly in revitalization.
I'm a child finance director. I've been with the city for 10 years and have done finance related for about 15 years.
Sue Allen, I'm your minutes taker for the past 45 years.
Good morning, everybody. Tom DePietro, Public Works Director. Been with the city 20 years, 1 month, 11 days. Public Works manages highway, parks, maintenance, mechanics, wastewater, drinking water, stormwater, and facilities.
I'm Eric Valentol. I have been with the city for very close to 4 years. And my background is in transportation and traffic engineering and cross-section with how humans use those facilities. And do that and many other things. I guess the big thing here is also the capital plan management. Big part of me being here.
Good morning, everybody. Paul Connor, Director of Planning and Zoning. I've been with the city for nearly 18 years and have background before that in private sector and regional.
Can we go? Sorry, Colin, I'm going to interrupt. Can we go back? Brian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Ryan, resident. Nicholas Charlie Castro, incoming deputy city manager. So been here -6 weeks. But 19 years across state, local government, and mostly in 4 years in Vermont.
I'm Maddie Sousa. I'm the HR manager. I've been here for about 3 years. Before that, I was at the Burlington School District in HR.
I'm the city clerk. I've been doing that for 3 years almost. Previous to that, I was the Recreation and Parks Director, and previous to my recreation, I worked for Cathedral Square as a service coordinator for senior housing.
Bree Droppa, I'm the director of the South Burlington Public Library. I've been here a couple of days more than the chief. I've been about almost 9 months. And I bring with me about 20 years in Vermont libraries.
My name is Ramon, the Communications and Outreach Manager. Been here for nearly 3 years. And before this, I was in local television for about 20 years.
Nick Gingro, I'm the IT Director. Been here for about 2.5 years and have about 16 years in IT experience.
John Bosange, I'm here representing the Natural Resource and Conservation.
I'm Colin McNeil. I'm the city attorney. I've been here just shy of 5 years. I was a county prosecutor here in Burlington, Vermont for a little while. And then I worked at a firm for several years before I came here. Mostly represented school districts and municipalities.
I'm Bettina Amigas. I'm the climate action manager for the city. I've been in this role for a year and almost a year and a half. And Before that, I've done work in environmental modeling and agricultural policy and all sorts of other things.
Adam Math, Recreation and Parks Director, been here coming up on 3 years. Before that was in professional. About 10 years.
Beth Sigmund, newest city councilor, practicing physician, I've been on the council for, I've been on the council for about 3 months, yeah. So I'm doing a lot of listening today.
Laurie Smith, been on the council for, I'm in my 3rd year. Prior to that, I was a self-employed contractor, developer, business person for most of my life, and bring that to the table.
Andrew Chalmick, beginning my 2nd year term on the city council. I'm a dad, and I have background in finance, law, and engineering.
I'm Tim Barrett, Chair of the City Council, and I've been on the council 10 years. And before that, I was on the DRB for 4.5 years and served as chair for the next year. Before that, I was on the Library Board of Trustees, and I am a 45-year veteran of IBM Global Foundries, and I'm still there, and I don't know why.
You say that every.
Somebody at home keeps kneeling me, when are you going to retire? And Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Fitzgerald, I'm your remote city councilor of 3 years. I served prior on the school board for about 15 years and retired from a career in the medical device development area. And happy to be here remotely today. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. I think it's good to just remind ourselves who is in the room. Oops, wrong screen. So I want to spend a little bit of time just setting the stage for what we're talking about today. So what this policies and strategies process is not science. This is a process that collectively we've made up together. We've done, this is, I believe, our 5th go around at this process. The goal really of this is to develop a shared work plan between the committees, the staff, and the council of what strategically we're going to do every year to further the city plan goals and actions. It's our obligation as your leadership team to bring our professional expertise to the table as you consider what to implement and how to have the biggest impact. And then it's our obligation to implement the policy you set through the approved policies and strategies work plan. It's important to note this is about the things we are trying to change in our community. This is not an inventory of what we do in municipal government. So that sometimes can be hard for us as staff, and I think hard for you as counselors, because there's a world of core government that we do every day that is not reflected in this policies and strategies. So for example, nowhere in here do we talk about answering calls for service or checking out library books or processing invoices or permitting projects or maintaining parks and recreational facilities. So I would ask you to hold that in mind as we think about that change. So to that end, I've gotten a couple of questions from committee members and staff and the council about what is the criteria for something showing up on the policies and strategies. Again, this is not a science. There's no metric to this. This is a structure we've created. So how I think about it is that something shows up on policies and strategies if there's a new policy discussion or decision we need to have. If there's a policy discussion or program that we are looking to implement or in the process of implementing that's outside of our what kind of Title 24 defines as municipal core government. Strategic efforts and capital projects that require a lot of council action. So, completing a segment of the bike path is on the capital plan, but may not show up on here because we already have right of way. We've already bid the project. We've already gone through the steps of it. But if we know that it's going to take up some significant amount of council time, we put it on here. So for example, the bridge has been the Ped Bridge has been on the PPNS for 5 years because there are so many pieces to that effort that require a lot of ongoing conversation with the council and with the community. We also include on here operational improvements that take a lot of staff capacity or financial resources. So our permitting system was on here. Our new financial system was on here. It's a way to flag what we are working on that is changing something in our organization. And then at times, programs or policies that include significant outside partnerships. So we've provided packets of material both linked on the agenda for folks, but also I believe you all have them. And this really is Anna's work, so credit to her. So what you have here are 3 different spreadsheet documents. So the first, and to us the most important, is the FY27 proposed work plan for the year. This is what we are recommending to you that we focus on. How we came to this was Anna built out all the recommendations that came from staff, all the recommendations that came from the city councilors, and all the recommendations that came from the committees, and aggregated those all together. And the leadership team spent a bunch of time putting together this one document. One of the things that I think is really interesting this year that is different from past years, one is the committees going first, which I think is an enormous positive change. 2 is how much alignment there was between things that the staff recommended, things that you all recommended, and things that the committees recommended. And one of what we noticed when we put together that whole database is that often people would be talking about the same concepts, but wording them slightly differently. So some of the work today, I think, is really about have we as the leadership team captured what those goals and outcomes are that were shared across different classes. So I think we may spend more time wordsmithing those today than we have in the past. On that proposed spreadsheet, you will also see dollar signs. Some of you asked us to call out projects for which we need immediate new money. It's not necessarily every item that will need more money in the future. It's the things that will not move forward unless they have new money. So I think we will likely have a conversation about that today. So that's in the document that has proposed written at the top. And where is that, Anna, around the room?
The proposed are on the red wall over here, on the left-hand side. And they go around all the way here, the 5 over here.
So then the second document you have is the bike rack. So this is to make sure we don't lose ideas, but we also don't feel like we have capacity to move them forward significantly this year, or we don't know if they're a priority to you. And then the third spreadsheet document is what we heard through the committees and the council are a lot of things that we interpret as core government that we are doing, but don't believe kind of reach that level of being on the policies and strategies. But we want to acknowledge that they're important things, and there are things we need to be reporting on throughout the year. And there are things that the staff liaisons and committees and council liaisons will work together on the committees. And those are over here. We've also included from Erica a summary of the capital improvement plan that's not posted up here. We wanted to include that because there are a lot of projects that are in your adopted CIP. They are already policy that we are moving forward as capital projects, but are not listed in the policies and strategies document. And then Anna has also done a crosswalk between all of the things that are in the policies and strategies spreadsheet and all of the goals and actions of the city plan. So we can start getting an idea of what things are we moving forward and what things we still need to be moving forward. Huge caveat with this spreadsheet. It's a amazing piece of work she's put together. It has not been thoroughly reviewed internally for things that we are working on in other spaces outside of policies and strategy. So it is very much a working document. I also included, just so you all would see what each other said, what you all submitted, and then the report that you've seen a couple of times from the committees. So those are the materials. So as Anna and I thought about, this is a lot of information coming in all at once, how to best use our time together today. These are the key questions that we outlined that we thought we could put into kind of 5 different buckets of conversation. We are not at all wed to this. It is just the proposal. So if you would like to proceed another way, we are happy to do that. The first key question was any clarifying questions about process, how policies and strategies, the CIP and various master plans work together. The second one is about that integration. Have we, for key efforts, have we integrated the language correctly? Have we captured what the council and the committees and the staff intend with something? And to me, that's one I think we should spend some more meaty time with. I think you may want to talk about funding capacity. So for the ones that have dollar signs, are we committed to finding funds to finding funds to move those forward? Potentially a review of the bike rack. Is there anything on the bike rack that you want to move up, and therefore what do we want to move down? And then we also heard, so the fifth one is we also heard through the committees and the council a fair amount of areas where we are working on things and we are hearing from your questions that we're not communicating well what we're doing on those. So things that we would like to come back to you with additional information about over the course of the year. So are there other areas other than what we've listed on this slide where we would like to do that? So I'm gonna let you muse on those for a few minutes while I keep going with some slides folks have seen before, but I think it's worth repeating. So as we think about the conversation today, I think it's always important to remember kind of the unique roles and responsibilities we all have. I alluded to this earlier. So the city council, informed by your policy committees, your role really is to set the policy of the city, adopt the city plan, and provide the fiduciary oversight and resources to implement all those things. So your key questions are, is something the right thing to do for the community? What are you hearing from the public? You have to adopt those policies, and then you have to provide the financial resources to do the things. And the leadership team's role, with the hard work of many staff behind us all, is to implement that policy that you set, to bring our professional expertise to the conversation. So sometimes that looks like it can be perceived, I think, as us naysaying things when it's really us bringing our professional experience to, if you go in this direction, this is what's going to happen. But we ultimately know that whatever direction you go in, we will implement for you. And I think that I really want to make sure that we're holding that trust so that's understood, that just by us providing expertise is not saying we will not do what you are asking us to do. We will absolutely do it. It's the whole point of the council manager form of government. So our key questions are, do we have professional and technical expertise we need to bring to the table? Are we able to implement the policy as defined, and then provide the management and administration for that policy you set? And together as a team between the council and the leadership team and the committees, if we keep on those roles and keep communicating about those expectations, I think to me that is what allows us to hold the greatest amount of trust with our community. So I'm almost done rambling at you. So I always think it's important, especially because I look around and know all of the work this team does on a daily basis, to not just walk in and start talking about new things without understanding the successes we have recently had and how this process has moved forward. Some really big things over the last 5 years, and specifically a couple of years. So, we launched NetSuite, our finance system. We launched a new online permitting system. You all adopted our first economic development strategic plan, and funded a position for that, which is now posted and out for recruitment. We rebuilt the stormwater team. We put together a financing plan for the bike ped bridge, and we have a contractor on board about to break ground. We completed our next TIF project with the boardwalk through City Center Park. We have a water tower under construction. We've opened Garden Street from Dorset to past Market. You heard from Sophia on Monday night about the businesses moving into City Center. Alana in the Cone of Silence knows of a couple of others that are coming that are really, really exciting. We've welcomed a new library director and a new police chief, and we've seen a huge uptick in recreation and parks programming and library service provision. Yay. This year we've seen this a couple of times, but I think the putting the committees first has really been an excellent addition to this process. Anna has greatly improved our reporting of the policies and strategies, and we've used them internally at the leadership team for more accountability conversations. and starting our review of the master plan goals and actions to make sure we're moving everything forward. And again, the activity today is really, are we all aligned to the work we're going to do in the next year? And as we think about that, I ask the council to keep in mind some other big things that we have on the horizon going into FY27. So we're welcoming our next deputy city manager. We're going to onboard our new economic development director, a capacity the city has never had. We are going to recruit and welcome some new leadership team members, which I said very generally when I posted this publicly last week, and focus on continuing our succession planning across all of our departments. We're going to build our first budget with our new finance system, going to continue to expand our use of data to make policy and operations decisions when politically feasible, implement parking, implement a whole slew of master plans that are either adopted or in progress, including finishing the Parks and Open Space Master Plan and really intentionally kicking off our growth management efforts. We have a lot of other capital projects underway. You know about all of these. And then, of course, there's the core government that you see listed up there as well. Do folks have any questions about any of these things going into FY27?
Just one quick comment.
Yeah.
The amount of work that this team has done over the last year is kind of mind blowing. And at your direction, I continue to be amazed by what we are accomplishing in the city. That out there.
We need the team.
Yeah.
So that is the end of my ramblings for the day. Maybe not really at all, but so now I kind of turn it over to you all as how do you want to use the next 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30 timeline? Are these five? I'll go back to the. Are these the right buckets of questions? Do we want to start? Do we want to reorder them? Are there other things you were hoping we would talk about today?
And presumably the discussion about funding is going to be part and parcel of the discussion of the current priorities, right? So that's where in this do we talk about all the priorities?
Well, that's a great question.
Oh, come on.
That's a great question, and I'm open to ideas on it. It is hard. It's a little harder with Elizabeth on Zoom. So historically, we have taken some time to walk around and thought and write and use that as an organizational principle. We certainly could do that, and Elizabeth could put in a chat or something.
I mean, I would be in favor of that, if that's okay with Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And then
Elizabeth
presumably
could
also,
also-
as we do that and talk about the items we've dotted and we'll talk about funding. That's part of it, right?
Is there any way to know, this being my first go at it, I'm wondering how we know which of these priorities that are listed here reflect what were submitted by the city councilors recently.
So
They sort of embedded.
everything that we heard from the council should show up on one of these three documents.
Okay.
They might be worded slightly differently.
So
So
embedded in these documents.
they're embedded in these documents. And if they're not, I think that's one of the questions for you all today, is if you don't see your priority up here, or we've misunderstood where you were going, or we haven't captured the outcome correctly, we really want to have an intentional conversation about it. There was, and do you have off the cuff, actually, my question for you is like a good example. So just skipping ahead to that key question for a minute. So when the leadership team did this, there were 11 areas where we felt like there were priorities recommended from the committees, the council, or the staff that were multiple submittals, all worded slightly differently. So 11 areas where we tried to focus into one shared goal. So examples of that are So these three are examples of that. So several committees and councilors talked about the, about fossil fuel heating replacement, but all a little different. So in how we've captured it on these spreadsheets that we do it correct. So when you're walking around, if you don't see your things up there, please, let's talk about that.
And then presumably we'll do the same exercise, maybe in a more limited fashion for the bike rack going around. And I also just wanted to make sure, and hopefully do this now or later, the spreadsheets on the core. Let me just ask the question: is it? Are you proposing, or are you saying, Jesse, that those items are now part of core, or are they supposed to be part of your core, or?
No, we see these, the core items, as things, yes, we are currently working.
You're
So they are in some ways outside of policy study.
So the question I do have on some of it is whether all of those are ripe, in the sense of, in my mind, some of those still policy defined and not yet to the point where I see them being able to be operationalized.
Oh.
And I just want to go through maybe some of those, and the question is, when do we do that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So it's probably worth going through those. It is, just because they're in court, could mean that there's an active policy conversation.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Then where you draw the line between where it's still on policy, when it goes to court. Like, I guess in my mind, one of the lines could be if, there's still significant policy items, and even though it will become a core item as that policy is being fleshed out, it's not quite ready to be implemented, it stays on the policy side of the framework. It doesn't have to be, but that's kind of the line that I see as making sense.
So how about this as a proposal? Why don't we, I'm gonna go, sorry to make you dizzy. So we had from 9:40 to 10:30 as this process and integration. What if we take that block, spend about 15 or 20 minutes dotting, and then do a walk around and see where we are? That makes sense? So the question is, do you want to dot, or Anna had us do little sticky notes where we could write notes on the sticky notes about what the key questions are?
We could just write in the dots.
We need to have our own slides.
So we know who you are.
Oh, wow. We know who you are. We know what you said.
All right, that sound like a good approach?
Don't swap.
Don't swap.
So just to clarify, Jesse, which of the charts do I have in front of me or up on the wall there?
So up on the wall is the FY27 proposed set of policies and strategies.
Okay.
So that first document link, then the bike rack, and then the core government list.
Okay, got it.
And Elizabeth, if you want to do the same activity, and then if you want to put them in an email to Anna, Anna will then walk around the wall.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to be that organized, but we'll figure out a way to get some acknowledgement here. Yeah. Thanks.
Anna being able to this avatar. Right.
Can I ask just a specific question of Erica? We're from the meet report, Kimball Lab connection. Can you just describe for that me again? Because I couldn't understand it. Kennedy Drive to Kennedy Drive via shared use path.
The Kimball.
Top line.
So that is a project community to Kennedy. So along Kimball, there's a section across the Potash Brook crossing in particular.
Yes.
So that is in the CIP for a few years out still.
Okay.
And that's also being timed with some of the work included in the O'Brien development.
Okay.
So there are a couple of moving pieces, but it is one that is programmed.
Is the bridge plus the new path that's on Kimball going past O'Brien all the way to Kennedy?
O'Brien has in their site plan a portion of that from Kennedy along their parcel, and then yes, our section that's in the CIP is the path, which requires some work on that culvert
There's a
replacement.
culvert that's only this wide, it needs to be this wide, and there's a bunch of stream alteration, wetlands, et cetera,
Right.
permitting work that needs to be done.
Okay, so but it has to be a bridge and there has to be some new shared.
Extended culvert.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay. I'm just trying to, because I know it just stops dead there and.
So for a time, we'll probably put people out on the road and try to protect them somehow in the
Yeah.
interim period if O'Brien moves forward first.
Right.
So it's not just dead end on either side,
Sure.
but ultimately the plan is to extend that culvert, which again is a CIP item.
How many years that, do you think?
I think that is in the 4-ish years out
We can look it
from
up.
now, but please don't quote me on that.
Okay, thanks, now I understand.
And
That's what I thought of.
the scoping study has been completed on that, which laid out some interim options to get us there.
All right, so just as you start walking around, remember this is a Zoomed recorded meeting. I'm gonna leave the mic on for public record, so please keep that in mind.
On summer vacation yet?
You're in the lobby.
I'll go to graduation later.
How's it going? Sorry, Ryan. I'm sure am. We're all gonna be there. Yeah. All the stuff. Well, I signed everybody up. Thinking, I signed you up, come or not, I don't know, but it's. Okay. We'll see. Are you? You sit next to you, Mark.
I'm free. Overestimated the work value.
Oh, yeah, I do not envy, that's gotta be San County.
I stopped playing fantasy football. I got time for it in my life.
The items on Canada.
Yep, just graduated 8th grade, the other 7th.
I guess they.
Mondays, they forgot that were going on.
Yeah, I had never done this.
It's so easy anymore, not like when I was a kid. Ride your bike, get out of here, back till it's dark.
Yeah, I feel. Yep. Drop off your. It actually reflects one of my careers. So then I think so.
The last 2 days have been tough, letting everybody know, everybody's kind of surprised.
So we're trying to color code.
I'm getting questions for everybody, I appreciate it, The fewer city council discussions we have on it.
Your Burlington, the regular election, and then a special election.
Well, that's not necessarily reflected in the like.
Grad school, well, that's probably the last time it took me a week and a half.
Your life, and then when that special.
And that's.
Why didn't I get a back? Turned it on.
So maybe it's right,
Proof to them.
yeah, and then.
I don't remember doing that. My problem.
That sound is good.
Yeah, no, I can't.
It's actually not loud, but I can totally.
It's just, yeah, I'm trying to get my. It's survey, 60 ballots of selection. So, you know, just a little extra time to coordinate and organize and I said, you know, I know traditionally,
Mr. Barrett, where'd you go?
you know,
FY31.
Sarah.
I don't.
Whether everybody.
How many seats do we have to build? You just waited. That bike path is like this, you know, so.
Yeah.
I haven't stopped to go.
One guy, bring it all the time. Pull up there.
They're finally getting. Those police officers with no safety equipment to that train got to go down.
Nice to see you. Great job.
First time that's.
Certainly.
Definitely couldn't go like the rest of the school.
At the time. Yeah, it was a wheelchair was with her, was destroyed. Yeah, yeah, that was.
Used to do it in the gym, but they was such an accident. EVM is big. I think it's right now.
Remember when we were in the store, I asked Jesse, I said,
But everything, right, they're gonna do your fight, like you have to fight for it. Reserve it, like.
So that new path.
Right.
Yeah. Eventually we got very. Starting with such a. Some point.
There's 2 doors, 2 blocks away from me. Oh, yes, yes.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Be asked to like.
It's like with Gloria, the day she retired, I recorded. She
Yeah.
came to work for me. Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
I don't like particularly. It's very nice, yes.
So.
Now.
But at the same time, you feel like. You go back to. Yeah, you never heard of it. So there are like. Probably like, you're not like.
Generation, you know?
Right.
So.
It's like a.
Should be, yes, pretty. Well, the mixing's a big
I don't know,
thing.
it's like foreshadowing. It's like. Yeah, but you're sitting all. It's like over 2 hours and sitting on teachers like packed in tight. Yeah. It's like. It was. So that's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's really draining.
It's like be like that, I'm gonna be doing, you know, I did like that.
Sometimes you're just. That are.
Get so much pressure.
And each kid has like.
No, I'm just want to get my coffee. I was not gonna sit down. It's like, you sit so much.
Anyway.
So, you know, how many meetings there?
I cheated a little bit, so there's just one of my son's friends.
And I have the other thing to deal with. I have a deal there with Burlington voter registration.
They had no idea.
Will you do that?
It is mostly.
They're up there.
Let's take it up and just show the alarm and they all squeezed in. It was pretty cool.
It's nice.
Are you looking
for
It was funny.
And we have,
tree,
Yeah.
So the superintendent went first to like go long. I guess you got the. What time did they do? So we'll be seeing come back.
If they don't speak.
It's out.
It was a nice day.
Well,
And yet
so
they do some very good stuff. I mean, they have the computer
Yeah.
with all the up to date and see, they're wonderful stuff. But these my people.
So we're like players.
Preservation one.
They want to have some. Like show them the living. I don't know.
Whenever those colored tags, they go over the same day when registration. They sent me with this. Okay, you see what else? Here it is. Yeah, I'm good.
What happened to BVR?
And so we have staff do it.
So no.
Yeah.
So meetings, I got to send it up.
That's like.
Yeah, well. All right. They show I know most of everything.
Most of us.
So most of
I'm not trying to be, but 100% I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can be mission control, let everyone else delegate.
Into that since
We've done so much growing, we're gonna continue growing. We have, you know. A real giant. It's a different. What we're finding is. We're gonna take this. And then over an extra zip code.
Literally, what are we doing?
See what happens in November.
That was like. Schedule there.
You finish early if you don't care about.
If it's just, if you haven't turned over.
Before they do it, they do it like a year. Thanks, time to do that. Yeah, so I did like the last 2 weeks.
So the governor just, which I don't know why this sounds like, but we. For most municipalities, and some of that's hard. You know.
Real clinical, real. If you're not doing fine, it's the first time you go through.
Yeah, what am I supposed to do?
Or, yeah. Because almost everything gets
They're not
done.
gonna use it for cordial. They're not gonna.
Yeah. Like, what are the,
Which my biggest started doing a year ago, because I was like, you know.
details and all of.
Yeah, and you gotta remember, just try to stay high level, because you're just saying high level.
But the efforts to get to those during that very narrow time with statutory posting is different than anybody has felt.
This is. I have so many like little comes up. Positive time, but yes, I'm totally.
Sacred. So, yeah. Yes. But then it really was rabbit hole of like.
We will not be on our work. No, not as. You're welcome.
That's a. Okay.
Yeah.
We actually got, we voted to.
So what I was.
Go to jail for that.
Spreadsheet
Yeah.
that the,
So she's still gonna have the scary times.
submitted.
I'm not.
So I can go on
ignoring that or into it.
I did it. It's a document, I think, because we
Yeah.
did things that are ongoing, this is the ongoing stuff.
Right.
I remember the,
Tried for years.
put this together, this is
Yeah.
his plan, and then this is the. For the. This is, he wanted this, and that, so here's the herbicide, here's the waste, here's the middle management, but this is the one that did.
Register, it's just,
So-
to make sure it's documented, this whole folder for government.
Well, what do you mean I don't
Public
have to show
treatment,
it?
when in-
A little bit over.
Well, what do you, so it's much more about like liaise with staff. It's.
It is.
Yes, get a license and get married within 5 minutes.
I mean, if it's a copy, I guess, but.
Without a witness, I don't need a witness, I don't.
Yeah, it's one, there's, specific.
Yeah, you don't need to run in. Hand me a piece of
Me to go
files out
hear
here.
what it's.
You got to. Fine. I am perform the wedding.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if you want, we can make a copy.
What is that?
That would be great.
Yes, it is. When the
Drive will wear.
Presenting what the FCC did.
Oh, I have to tell you. How different they can be.
That makes any single lot. Heard like they're gonna still love to see these things, you know. That language.
Drive along the road. We see this group of citizens walking down the road, starting.
That's tough work.
Later, so
Tough work.
said about Garland Hill. I see that.
It seemed like, yeah.
Adam dropped a lot of it. Nicholas is still off the ball.
Oh, I want to.
Yeah,
It's a great proposal.
yes. Oh, yeah, yeah. The Nicholas is Andy's son.
Oh,
Yeah.
Of course, yes. Oh, I'm so happy. Yes, yes, I do, yes.
Look at me, I'm not thinking.
Here it all goes. He wasn't gonna take any money, and I said, what you want?
What do you care? Contact from my
Yeah. Where are they doing the ceremony?
Well, to be decided, TBA, yes. Agreed.
Okay.
We're still trying to get along with it. It's only been 8 years, so I understand.
Well,
Yeah.
Has that been adopted?
Different bag.
Adopted, for sure.
With education.
He's had.
Last time I was, you know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's definitely what it's adopted.
I appreciate that.
Not just
Morning.
very good. It's basically a good. Trouble parts of
No, they.
our wedding.
You didn't get anything from this, but. Existing use thing doesn't.
Well, right, right.
They have to-
And then
But-
she said, we've had. She knows.
I know it doesn't say they're fine. These
They
kids,
will be.
if they screw something up, let them.
Let's say like that.
It's actually pretty.
Their thing.
But at the same time, the graduation.
Has flowers, if they want flowers. have flowers.
So leading up
That's very-
to.
yeah. You have to have this conversation.
That's what I.
So she's already scurrying around. That's just, you know,
It's all in love.
Language, and she's making comments. The language is, you know, are. What is our? But that one isn't, so she. It's not there, right? To do it. It's just voices. She's got a copy, but she's not.
What are we looking for?
Yep.
Right.
Depends on what day it is. Her brother's wife.
Just that they're.
Ian.
I just.
Yeah. That's the.
But she said.
She's distraught because she wants relationship with her family.
Yes.
And most of them are people.
It's included in.
Yeah. What's the first name?
The Naval Academy, that whole deal.
I think you're talking.
Pretty
Yeah.
Today's been.
It's just there. This is that.
No.
Oh, yeah, it's happening from.
That's what I thought.
Oh, yeah.
So this is just, this is a formal party.
But
Yeah.
you said it's a guy.
Sorry.
But they have their moments.
Anyway.
There's genuine caring.
Maybe it doesn't plug this.
Because mine.
So, Ross is already getting plans.
No, plugged in.
That, cause that's just around the fan or whatever.
When it happens, it happens. It's not your story.
It may not catch
Their
this.
story.
Oh, you're so good for her.
Well, they're good to me too.
I don't know, I just thought that is
Yeah.
They're very strange.
Oh.
You go to 2 months. with no-
Be here through July, so still got time to get some things out.
Others.
It was only yesterday, but it's Wednesday, Monday.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, Paul.
Into July.
Yeah.
You'll have, so Erica is the interim at least.
Way too far.
Yeah.
Because you have so much on it.
Ride my.
I remember Vermont, even the law is now dropped. Like, sort of, unless you are in a designated down 6-1 other. Would that, the second week is less. Category where it drops.
Short answer, yes. It's a long answer. The structure of the centers is being built.
Do that for a while and people be working part-time at I'm officially retired from the city.
Guys, pension.
Yeah, that's what he's always thinking with the
It's
city.
eligible, there's some other
Got.
circumstances.
Yeah,
where-
and like my father passed away, you know, so I inherited a lot of retirement. But he,
I
I can bridge myself.
I gave a presentation to do the night to council, that had a.
I get that.
Quick, like, yeah, so it's on the website. There's a slide in there that shows the benefits of the steps. And, one of those is like.
Yeah, I want that.
So I could retire.
Keep in mind, we're gonna talk about that all
My
together.
therapist, physical therapy.
Moving away.
My bridge together.
Yes. I was wondering, were there,
Tired now.
It was really intended to be different formula, yeah.
As I live.
Worthwhile, start eating healthy, you're all.
No, they're open full time.
There certainly was, certainly to buy electric mower. It was not.
Okay, so.
We couldn't get people to work also. When it comes, or people have to work. So, yeah, we would not. We do it 6 times as it is for my 6 shifts, and I'm not looking forward to that. I am, yeah, I'm looking forward to being there, but not getting there.
Can't stop, we can't start for the first step.
I'm selling Christmas ornaments.
Already.
I just got to see part of it today. I love how she put the eagle thing.
Yeah.
That's my, and I have no display skills whatsoever. None. I mean, I just,
I wasn't sure what because don't you normally say these hours of
display was not in my.
but that,
The woman who manages the store in the mall has that gift. She can go, oh, I'll put this here and there. I mean, I am hopeless at that. Somebody do something. When I saw that, named Eagle.
because with us, they can say 8 hours. Right. These.
How's the poetry?
If you.
He's like, amazing. There are a lot of explanations. Any more poems come to you overnight for osmosis? We're waiting for another.
That poem got published in the Randolph Poetry.
Did it?
If you're on a Kelly day,
They called me about something else. I said,
it's almost easier just to split it.
so let me tell you the story. And I did. That poem, what they do is they publish them.
I think in the overtime would be on a day, the day of this. Time would be there. Yeah, so I'd ask, we just split this 50.
Stay busy. That means stepping in service. Which is sometimes the best should all have instant.
Kelly is one of those things.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Lifetime writing story of my life. I was thinking the other day, there are moments in your life where
You guys talking about.
couple of
10:30 is the break, so
Okay.
I'd like to.
We're already. Let me finish this page.
They're 17 years old, I get invited to.
Here. That's kind of his own condo fee. Yes. Yeah, because I moved from a house, I was an overlay. Condo fee. Yeah. Condo fees are the condo fees, but.
Meant to be, big song, Susan, Boyle singing.
Andrew, I haven't had a chance to really look at this closely yet, just came in this morning. We work on it.
He says the opposite.
Yeah, I'm looking for this.
I don't
See it.
about it. I tried to figure out to put that together.
Yeah.
Because it was so dramatic.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand it in words at the time, but I certainly understood it in that. I mean, it was in another place, something. I was still 17 years old. But it's 17 years old.
That's great.
It was. The first poem in that book. I had no idea until I was putting the book together. And there's something.
Yeah.
But. Understood that. They knew Long before
When you're smiling at your personal phone, it's about your wife.
about a couch?
It's her wife. I saw the couches for sale.
Yeah, this is next.
I only take 8 weeks.
This should have been his.
I saw it. That's exactly.
Something that's.
They reduce habitat for meadows.
Something else. Everybody.
But it's great and we need to work for other owners.
Just graduated.
First one, I was gonna call Joe and be like, you know what, couch you should really.
It's a complete poems and all topics because it's the script. There's made little one wrong. He didn't know. So very recent. Oh, yeah. I did that. Oh, my God. Circle. Yeah.
No, I'm about to be.
Yeah.
In the world.
I was thinking, well, I would love to get together until. I'd love to throw my arms around them. They stay, you know, 70 years later, you know. It's, yeah, you know, and I was very fortunate. I was at UVM that year was 1956, right after the Korean War. So we several were in this poetry.
No, never.
But
And that's the one that you have the most like. And so it's most like somebody else do it.
We'll do it right now.
Actually, it's not.
I can't really do it, but
Yeah, he's got a long distance, he's got a long stride. I think it's inappropriate. Definitely. Yeah.
Oh, no, but it's not just.
Big
because it's
brothers,
also-
yes, couple of big.
Long.
But tell me. Never say.
Yeah. He does the same bit.
Yeah. That's right.
Mom's has to work coming tough.
That's really fun.
No, truly.
It's funny, kid. I give him so now, but I was.
Close, a couple of years ago, I think I can still get this.
Smart.
Well, and there was one I did. There's a bacon.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I do.
When we were there, we were talking about it, I was just going, oh my God, it's very, well, it says with whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm gonna.
You know, how big a chestnut tree.
Yeah.
It's it's so much.
Well, it's like-
Yeah, I mean, like, went had javelin fighting yesterday.
Something.
Okay.
With some of that.
Having like.
During their operation.
It's really good.
More like breakfast too there.
It's fun.
Yeah,
Like.
but I'm loving this from you.
He said.
Just like very hard and then, well, like you either do or. Oh, yes, like you can train your dog.
Yeah, what to do? Oh, no, you found out. Okay.
You mean Steve's field?
It wasn't hot.
Same, let's go with.
He also graduated high school operation. Operate senior bonfire.
Yeah.
Next day.
You ever keep running track? Yeah. Graduate. I'm doing the capstone right now. I see that profile. This is the first time, last week, and said he could do it. He made the minimum requirement.
It's so fun. Not very many principals have that available at all.
Yes, more than code, like, one, you need the pit, and two, you need.
So we're coming together, you guys. Elizabeth, are you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so for the folks that are about against that wall, I might ask you to kind of come around. I think, council, your intent here is for me to walk around and talk about what you've bulleted. But before I do that, I think Elizabeth was going to make some general comments, and if anybody else wanted to do that. So sorry, thank you.
Yeah, Tim, are you okay with that?
That's fine. Go ahead, please.
Okay, yeah, it's a little, sorry, I can't be there. I should offer to sell my dots to some of my colleagues. First off, I thought the proposed policy priorities and strategies that was presented by staff really captured what I consider a pretty ambitious and comprehensive plan for fiscal year 27. So in general, I'm in agreement with all of that. There's areas I would like to focus on, but I'll hold those comments till later. And I think, you know, we all have sort of our special interest areas. But what I did want to just make a quick comment on is when I look at any kind of annual list, which tends to be a rolling list of priorities and strategies, I really was looking at it, and I brought this up in other issues, and I think Jesse and staff have captured this in a number of ways, as you mentioned, Jesse, throughout the list of proposed projects. But it's really around affordability and kind of fiscal stress, and it won't be any surprise to anybody, and I don't want to be Eeyore about it, but particularly with projects that have come in over budgeted or over estimates, and increasing expense items around pension obligations, healthcare benefits, inflation, labor availability, etc., maintenance backlogs, federal funding, all that uncertainty. One of the things I just want to keep at the forefront is, you know, can we do everything on this list in a quality manner, and do we have a framework to have a discussion about how do things get shifted in time, for instance, not necessarily in terms of if they're going to get done, but just recognizing that there may be outside influences that affect the affordability of some of these areas. That was one area. The other area is really around leadership transition. We've got a few key leadership roles that are going to be transitioning, and I really want to be sensitive to overloading folks who are really onboarding into our city, and giving people an opportunity to onboard in a planful way, but also be successful with the priorities that they're going to take on responsibility for day one. And then lastly, I just, you know, it's hard to sort of pick one in terms of priorities, but when I think of sort of a top three list, without getting into it in too much detail, I really think realizing the vision of city center is at the top of that list for me, or in the top three, inclusive of the TIF district and inclusive of figuring out a solution around a city green, given the development we expect in the TIF district. So those are just a couple of the highlights. Within that, I also, and I know the city doesn't have a ton of influence on this, but really what the future of U Mall is, because I think that is such a critical part of realizing that vision. Ultimately, I just don't want to lose sight of that, how important that is. So I'll stop there, but I appreciate kind of the opportunity just to speak at a slightly higher level around some of my thoughts when I was considering this, and when I'll consider the items today specifically. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Anyone else want to make general comments, or should I start with something around?
The only general comment I'll make is I think having committees engaged at the beginning of this process has been really helpful, and going around, it's feel like there are many fewer gaps for me than there were last year. I don't have to do much. So that's been a really good change. Very, very impressed.
Can I tack a question onto what Lori just said? So just to understand the process, so are we now, I know that there are all the liaisons of the committees. Will they be taking some of this information back to those committees to say that these are the things that the council has, you know, we've sort of solidified our decision that these are the things that we want X committee to focus on? Is that the intent?
Yeah, so sort of amended. So the intent is that coming out of today, you'll have whatever conversations you will have and hopefully give us majority guidance of where you want to fine tune things. And then Anna and I will capture that into a policies and strategies document and amended work plans for the committees. And then you'll approve all of those together as a packet at one of your July meetings. So you'll have another bite at that approval. And then those work plans will go back to the committees. Thank you. Okay. Steve, you're up on Zoom. I'm going to start on the proposed. Well, where would you, my information is to start on what we've proposed.
Yeah, please do. Counselors, hide your colors.
I was going to say, so we've got pink is our chair. I think blue is our vice chair. I think
I'm green.
Oh,
Blue is one.
blue is Lori, yellow is Beth. Elizabeth, pipe up. Okay, so one comment on City Green, cost. Yes,
Cost.
very expensive project.
Yeah.
New money.
Yeah.
Are we
Can we
ready
just,
for that?
can we talk about that for a second? We do have ARPA dollars, right, that came. And we've got open space funds that are building that we haven't used, and that could be pretty green. In my mind, between those two sources, we got a pot of $3 million.
We have other expenses that could be unfunded at this point too on other projects. So I'm trying to balance that priority versus other priorities that are more infrastructure related as opposed to pseudo-cultural.
For things like this, I think we could tap $3 million.
But I also want to point out that we have a city center park connected now that starts at Stormwater Park, goes all the way over to Ivy Street. So when you start talking about a city green, you got to ask yourself, do we need a city green in conjunction with a city center park? Or can city center park be enhanced somehow to become the city center park?
Are you suggesting that we should deprioritize this item and not look for city green?
I'm thinking that's what I would like to do for now, because we have so much other stuff going on. That to me is the least important thing we have to work on. So disregarding the work that Lori and I have already done so far, right? And I'm saying that there is so much going on. That seems to me not a high priority item.
Well, I totally disagree.
I know you do. I know you do.
I think it's our priority.
I'm sorry, but there are other things going on that require cash. And that one, I hate to see that money spent on that when we've got other things to do.
I would like to see us look at ways to fund it. And I don't think that we can find those funds. And there are a lot of ways that we can potentially do a project like that with broad community support, including the finance.
You could get a broad community support until they see how much it's going to cost, right? And what other projects are going on. And who it's intended for, which is basically just the people in city center.
No.
Question, have we ever sought philanthropic funding for a public
That's what I'm talking about.
space like that? I mean, it seems like we have some big business, not big businesses in the grand scheme, but we have some pretty community engaged businesses in South Burlington that might be willing to. I'm just wondering, have we ever sought?
Yes, so that happens all the time when you have philanthropic, the library trustees raised. Oh, there you are. Raised almost $800,000 for the library, you know, that does happen. That is usually something that is done by not city staff who are also sending you a tax bill. It could take place in this instance.
So we've already talked to one potential donor who's willing to send a large amount of money and has suggested spearheading a fund to connect with others to put up large amounts of money for this early budget. Because he thinks it's so important.
And
Which
creating an organization.
Yeah, which I think this is incredibly high priority. I don't think Goose Pond is a substitute for an acre of gathering space where you can have a market, where you can have bands, where you can have kids playing, throwing frisbees right there in the middle where people can sit and have coffee. And I think it's a completely different space. It was always part of the vision of City Center in all the presentations until at the very end, someone got cut out. Everyone I talk to thinks it's a critical thing for the city to have that space.
You're responsible for spearheading or fundraising efforts. You said city staff does, it's some sort of conflict for city staff.
So, well, what I'm saying is historically, those kinds of fundraising efforts are done by like a Friends of group, or a quasi-related group like that. So I'm hearing too hard yet. Sure.
So we are taking on quite a few, no opinion on this, right? But I just want to point out to council, we're taking on quite a few new parks. Some developments are already under construction, whether it's O'Brien, Cider Mill, Spear Meadow. So there's quite a few parks coming online. So we'll also encourage you to think about staffing for our parks maintenance folks. As part of this discussion.
This is a way off, right? These discussions with the owner are still at a very formative stage.
Yeah.
By the time those discussions move to a stage of, okay, we're ready to talk about how to acquire land, acquire the land. But I mean, it's years off before.
Four guys for all the parks in the city.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also, an interesting point. Maybe this is not the context to discuss that, but anyway.
So this is also part of our growth management plan, is all of those areas, all of those parks, all of those shared use paths, all those sidewalks, those roads that the private sector is building that we will maintain over time. At what point do we need to start adding staff over years to maintain all of that new infrastructure?
Elizabeth, can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to add the comment. I'm not anticipating a lot of action, I guess, in FY27, but I think to deprioritize this one, you lose any momentum you've got. I'm actually anticipating this is going to be a long haul project, but I think keeping it on the radar and doing things toward it, whether it's a big staff lift or not, short term, which I don't think it would be. But I think, I mean, hearing some great comments about funding alternatives, things like that. I just think the consistency of realizing that city center vision needs to include that dialogue. And I wouldn't want to start effort with something of this particular, of that particular element.
I'm hearing at least 3, keep it on.
Trying to keep it on.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep going here.
Keep going.
Okay. Next one is about Hubbard Recreation Natural Area. Look.
Long property,
Oh,
the long path. I just,
walk. I was like, Steve, what are you doing?
no, that was me. I know that the long property is going through the DRB process. I spoke to one of the owners and they were saying that it's going to be kicked back to council for negotiating that path. I think that's a really, without that section, the Hubbard path is pretty useless. And I just wanted to make sure that, we have a focus on what's coming up soon and how we move through that.
So Paul, can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
So this is a very interesting gray area. So to protect the regulatory process of our DRB, have they issued a decision?
They have not.
So we don't know.
Right.
You might have inside information from somebody, but we don't know that that is going to be something that comes to you. So we haven't included it here, but it's a great example of something that's going to come up potentially mid-year that we will need to integrate.
I just want to have it in our focus.
Have you?
Even though we don't know how it's going to play, somehow securing the continuity of that bike path is critical.
So,
And
yeah, I hear what you're saying. I guess I would, Colin and looking at you guys on this. So do the 5 counselors know what Lori is referring to here?
Yes.
So if a permit gets denied at the DRB or something that's on the official map, it comes to the council for a time certain of how much of purchasing that that land, that the right to do something and building it. So this is going to become a property negotiation for the council if hypothetically a decision is issued. So I think it's a bit of a negotiation strategy of, do you want to put it on here? And I'm walking a very
fine line here. Yeah.
I think we have to wait and cross that bridge. You don't have a choice. I understand the importance of that linkage, and I advocate for it as well. But in the interim, it's a 450-foot Spear Street experience off of North Jefferson to get to South Point. Right? So it's not a broken link because you go into South Point, you get on the path, and you're back in the road. That's one of the reasons why we did it now, because we could.
So Paul and Tom.
My suggestion on this specific topic would be, as Jesse described it, it is currently in a development review process. It will or won't come to you. Right. It's not really a policy choice as to you under state law. If it comes to you, it will come to you. You will have the mandate to either take action or not take action within a certain period of time. So I don't know that it needs to be on this. It's more like there are things, lots of things in your work that come to you. This will be one that if it comes to you, it will come to you regardless of what you do.
Can I just clarify? It is on the official map though, correct?
Yes, yep. And that's why it would come to you if denied.
Yeah, thank you.
So, but hold on a second.
Related, also an important water line connection through there for some looping on Spear Street. If we have a break on Spear, it could be out of water, but once that connection is made, it allows us to loop. So it's not just the path, there's
right
the pipe we're gonna want to put through there as well.
So
it's in the plan.
Regardless as to what happens with DRB, I was just thinking that the city park is something that we're saying we want to move forward. I just thought that connection might be something that we say we want to move forward.
So, but I think to Elizabeth and Paul's point, you already have made that policy decision because it's on the official map. You have said when this parcel is developed, that's what we want to do.
Okay.
Our expectation is a developer would do it because it's on the official map.
Okay.
Well, Recreation Center. So we have a deprioritized focus on acquiring rec space. Agree with the green note. So I'm going to go out on a limb for staff here. This is one that staff think, not that we're going to build a rec center in FY27, but as a community conversation, we really need to start having. And if we don't start having it, I think it's going to, on behalf of the leadership team and other people, feel free to jump in. It is going to make Adam's team less and less effective because they are bouncing around so much. We are going to reach very quickly, if we haven't already reached our ability to do new creative things because 1, we don't have space to do them. 2, everything we do, we are moving staff and materials and things around to. 3, we have, lots of children, lots of families, lots of seniors, lots of folks who have no one-stop point to go to, no one-stop place to go to build community and have their health and wellness needs met. And that affects public safety, that affects community development, that affects community connection and messaging. We think this is really something that is probably past due to start talking about. Again, not to build a rec center next year, but we have defined this as in 2027, establish a reserve fund, identify potential locations, and pursue community engagement activities. This may also have a crosswalk, as I think Lori mentioned, the last council meeting, to the Shelburne Road city center planning efforts currently underway. Team, want to add anything to that?
I would just kind of like to echo, I think the green note says, look for, you're going to do that one.
Focus on acquiring rec space.
Yeah, this is the ultimate rec space that we would actually be able to use year round. unlike other rec space, which would like to be looking to apply.
So I might agree that what I meant by, so, I think we need to have, our budget discussion before we talk about this item, honestly. I think with the, Walnut Bay, with the discussion around school and taxes, I just don't think we're ready for, I don't know, there's gonna possibly be discussion around a $20 million facility this time. I'm not willing to have that discussion. I just think our tax base can't sustain that right now. And I'm not prepared to move forward with that. But what my green note said is that in lieu of that, and I understand it doesn't, it's not the same thing, is to focus on acquiring land. There's land, say, along the Route 7 corridor, which some of us have spoken about, which I think would be great additional park space for the city and for those residents. It doesn't serve the exact same purpose, but it does tend to get more recreation. And eventually, perhaps that space could be the space where we build a rec center. I'm not sure, but that's where my priority.
I agree with that. I think that there needs to be a robust discussion about what this might cost taxpayers, and not only the upfront cost of constructing, of the staff time for one thing, of planning it, et cetera, but also the cost of the rec center itself. And that's many, many millions of dollars up front, and then the maintenance cost as well. And I'm just curious, and I just don't know, but is it typical for municipalities of this size to provide that as a service for their communities? I mean, I know in Saratoga they have a pool, but Saratoga has a racetrack that provides them with an incredible amount of tax revenue. So, we don't have something like that. So everything that we do is going to be an additional burden on the taxpayers. And so I have concerns about the funding of such a huge project in lieu of what Andrew said, which is seeking out spaces where we have, parks.
But in lieu of that, we need to keep pushing it forward in some respect, right? Because someday we need to have that facility. Because other communities have those facilities. We don't have that facility, right? And that's an inclusion item in our city plan. So I think we need to show some progress on that. I don't know what that progress is.
And that's all we were suggesting, is to start.
Well, this says establish a reserve fund.
I think a rec center is on our horizon. It may be far out, but I think it's important for us as a community to be having the discussion. And we're a long way from having to talk about funding.
Well, this says establish a reserve fund.
Well, that's part of what we're talking about here, is have we captured it correctly? If this is there willingness to put staff time towards anything this year? And if Andrew's saying no, if three of you say yes, how do we write that in a way of what are you comfortable with us working on this year?
So just in terms of community, Burlington has a Y, doesn't have its own rec center. I would love those.
Just built.
That's for when you.
I would love us to explore partnerships with organizations like the Y, rather than us own the rec center.
It may be a public-private partnership. I think that's a great thing too.
Well, we could explore that.
Yes. Sure. I think moving the exploration forward of a community rec center is an important conversation. How we fund it is a second step, but there has been throughout our entire community, every time there's a rec meeting, a rec center and a pool come up at every meeting from many, many, many members of our community. And we're going to need to address it at some point. And I think not talking about it is a mistake.
I have one more comment about that, though. When those things come up at community meetings, is estimate on that. So it's very easy for someone in the community to say, I really want us to have a public pool. But if you put, I don't know how much a public pool would cost to build and maintain and staff. But if you put a price next to that and it's X million dollars, they might say, maybe not. So I think without putting the price tag next to it, we're not really giving them the whole picture when we say, hey, would you like to have this? Because it doesn't have any, real world it's not like a realistic
If St. Albans,
rendering of that project.
I understand, but if St. Albans and Colchester and Winooski and the list goes on, are able to do this for their community, I can't believe that South Burlington can't and won't in the future. So it's, in the 3 years I've been on the council, it's been one of the things that has come up over and over and over again.
Would one of the counselors like to make a recommendation of what we could, how we could reword the FY27 staff actions to have at least 3 of you say yes to?
Did Elizabeth chime on this? I'm curious to hear from Elizabeth on this subject.
Yeah, Beth, thank you. I agree with your approach which is, if nothing else, moving it to some level where there's enough specificity for the community to react yay or nay to. It may put the discussion to bed indefinitely, based on the economics of it. But I also have seen this come up over and over again, so would like to move it to a position where there's a little more specificity for the community to react to.
I would say just strike the established reserve fund.
Yeah.
Leave the other.
And I would also add, explore various funding and public-private partnerships as options to be considered. Look at what are all the various ways we might be able to bring a rec center to our community.
Explore alternatives.
Yes.
For building a rec, for us owning a rec center.
Yes. A broad spectrum of opportunities.
And in the meantime, just a suggestion, is there open commercial space somewhere that's unused that could suffice for a while? I can think of 2 floors of unused commercial space right now. They're really big up Walgreens. Yeah, the upstairs Walgreens.
Right, I think so, seeing one head nod. Do I have 3 head nods?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to understand what we're nodding to. So we're nodding to
You're nodding
doing a fulsome investigation of like how much this might cost before we put it before the.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things that what you're asking for is usually like a step past high level visioning. So for us to understand what something's really going to cost, we need to know, like, are we talking about 1 yoga studio and 1 rec center? Are we talking about, or 1 rec room? Are we talking about a pool? Are we talking about, a new YMCA like Burlington? Like it's very hard to get that preliminary engineer. You are right that this is a big community price tag. But until we know what, it's hard for us to put a dollar to it. So what you're head nodding to here is community engagement activities, potential locations, explore funding, and public-private partnership alternative options.
Can you maybe also add to that, dovetail the ending of the penny for pets to penny for rec? You could add that as a proposal.
Yeah. Where's that come from? I'm not there.
I didn't know that at some point. So
I assume some of this may come out in the master plan as well. I'm hoping there's some level of detail in the master plan that might guide this work.
we're changing from penny for open space to penny for,
For exactly. So, not to get defensive. The open space fund, one of the amendments that was made by ballot, hold it up, the 2008 amendment was that it can be used to purchase land exclusively devoted to recreation. It's not about building the rec facility, but there is a funding source in that, and that fund is in perpetuity with no end date on that ballot. So there is another funding source for at least 10 So we're talking about a rec center right now. Yeah. The penny, if what Tim just threw out there is a big change of policy. So counselors, do you want us to put something like that on here?
Not point.
No's, 1 yes. Beth and Elizabeth.
Sometime.
Well, we're gonna come to Pennington Path, right, later on, and we can have that discussion there.
Wait for
Yeah.
that.
So are people okay to keep going for a little while? here?
So I just want to ask the question, I've thrown out and maybe this is not where to have the discussion, but I want to put a pin that I would like to have a discussion about using the open space fund to acquire more rec space, in this particular, some spaces along with 7, and I think we should be looking at.
Very interested with the.
I know it's
Space fund, can't
I know that. That's why I says.
I guess I would just say to that point, as Elizabeth noted, we are kicking off this year a sort of long-range visioning for the Shelburne Road Center. I think that a lot of these preliminary conversations and preliminary ideas of what the opportunities are and what the avenues.
Space is gonna be around for that timeline though, Paul? I mean, it's being offered now, right? And how long that space can be available?
Specific.
There's some spaces along Route 7 that one near the cemetery, one of course from Lowe's, that I think would be really good rec space for that part of the community. And I'd love to us as a council to think about using open space funds for that. I don't know if that's in this item or where we put it, but.
So I think that is not on here anywhere right now.
Okay.
Do you want to add?
I'd like to add that as a discussion here.
I would like to see us enter conversations with landowners that might have land that would be potentially useful.
Too soon.
Okay,
Too soon.
not. Well, it wouldn't be too soon if they said, well, geez, we will
Donate it.
donate it to the
That's fine.
community.
Yeah, but they probably won't, so.
Well, there have been some very big philanthropic donations by,
landowners?
yes.
The question is, do you want to add this topic as a new initiative, because it's not captured anywhere, in order to try to stay on task of what
I'd
is
love
possible?
to add, we don't have to talk about it now, I'd love to add it. I mean, a few of us have had conversations around this, and I want to see what the sense of the council is on this. We've got the open space fund, we haven't used it, and there are some properties on it.
I think opening conversations would be a really good thing.
All right, so I have a brand new emerging issue on new open spaces, new open space money for open spaces on Shelburne Road exploration. I have one head nod, 2 head nods.
I guess I'll nod. A little bit reluctantly, but.
Okay, so I'm gonna put a big sticky.
What's
here,
the
which
time
means I'm gonna ask
investment?
for you guys to potentially think about taking something off by the end of this meeting.
Keep it separate.
It's the wood rack.
The wood rack.
The wood rack.
Okay, we keep going.
Keep going.
South Village improvements, playground, yes, this is very well underway, this is. Some of us met with the developer recently. Climate action plan, building and thermal implementation plan. Discussion requested thermal compliance inspection verification.
So it seems like that item dovetails with a couple of other things around the room. I mean, it's sort of linked to the fossil fuel heating topic and weatherization topic, right? These all sort of play in the same space.
So let's back up for a minute. So council adopted a climate action plan. Coming out of that climate action plan, we're had 3 different sectors, 3 different implementation plans. We've completed a government operations implementation plan. We've completed the transportation implementation plan. This is to complete the building and thermal implementation plan, that within it will then have a whole bunch of other goals and actions to have the biggest impact on the building and thermal sector we can have. So yes, you're right. That's why it is showing up in other places.
Right.
We would like to focus on completing the plan before we start doing all the other pieces. Is that a good summary, Bettina?
Basically, I mean, there are a couple of things that were still ongoing, but yes, the main, to do it right, we need to dedicate resources to. Yeah, good plan.
Does that answer your question, or do you want to now bounce it off?
What's the item up there again? I'm sorry, I can't.
So this is climate action plan, buildings and thermal implementation plan with a description of complete the building and thermal implementation plan this year.
Okay.
which talks about complete the plan that recommends which policies and actions to prioritize, begin using the plan to undertake actions based on expected impact and feasibility to implement within existing capacity.
Okay, I'll just leave it at that for now.
If that leads to what's on the blue, I'm fine not talking anymore, but I just want to make sure that's in there.
What's on the?
Thermal compliance inspection / verification.
That's in another, that's in the.
That is one of the actions in the original app, so it will be reviewed as well.
Okay.
I'm gonna want to come back at some point to talk about doing stuff in parallel as I have before, but I don't talk about that now. Oh, okay.
Do you
Well,
want,
Well, I mean,
while we're there, do you want to
I
just?
mean, we can, sure. I know we've got one item later on, let's see. What's on the bike rack?
I think that's, there's an inspection thing on the bike.
No, no.
Is it the fossil fuel heater replacement?
Someone work with HVAC.
Yeah.
Work with
It's
HVAC.
fossil, it's under the pink on page 3 of 5. That's kind of what. this
Which is great. I mean, I love working with HVAC. I think we need to do more because we've adopted the climate action plan now 5 years ago. And we're still, and not, I mean, I know we've done a lot and we don't even yet have a plan for transitioning our existing building stock. And it's been 5 years since we adopted the climate action plan. No, more than that.
Thank you.
4 years. But we started working earlier. The climate action plan itself has lots of actions for doing that. Already built into the plan, right? And I think we need to, as a city, move forward with those or similar ones in parallel with working on the implementation plan. And the one that I would love to see, which is a light touch, doesn't tell people what they have to do or where they have to do it, is to just have commercial operators report their emissions per square foot. It's an easy thing to calculate. You just take your heating bill, your oil bill, give them conversion for metric tons of carbon, divide it by square foot, and you post it. And the beauty of that is that it doesn't force anyone to change anything, but people by nature don't like to not do well on stuff. And there's a shame factor that could incent building owners to do better or to say, hey, you know what, why am I doing so bad? Maybe I do need to change these other things. It's a real light touch to start to move our building stock along. There's other ideas that I could talk about, but to me, that's
Andrew,
like,
is that on here somewhere?
it's so.
Or where would you recommend, where, is there one on here that is what you meant and we worded it wrong?
No, it's in my sheet that you didn't adopt, that I sent, in my priorities.
That we didn't adopt?
Well, I sent you a spreadsheet or a Word, right,
Yeah.
with things that I'd like to do,
Mhm.
and it was in there.
Do you know what it was tied to? If it was tied to a specific priority?
It's a climate action, it's a bullet. Climate action, the bullet is require that building self-grade and post-emission square foot data.
So Andrew, in doing, I just have a question, in doing that. The grade that you get, if you're a warehousing business that has cold warehouse space versus a high intensity research lab that has major exhaust going on, et cetera, the scores, how do you?
You don't have to, Lori, it's because it's not gonna be, it's not prescriptive, there's no penalty, there's no nothing. I mean, the building will say, yeah, we understand we got a B, but we're a high intensity thing, and help them say, okay. But if you're comparing two supermarkets, you're comparing two office spaces, I mean, I don't think you need to be that prescriptive
Well,
about
if
it.
you did it by class, I could
You
understand.
could make it more complicated if you want to. I personally don't think you need to, but we could.
This discussion came up at the energy committee meeting, the last one, which I watched all along, because I wasn't there, but it's an interesting point. There's a lot of nuance to, so unlike EV charging, I mean, there's nuance there as well. And unlike writing an ordinance for existing construction or for new construction rather, there's a lot of nuance and it's, about conversion of existing construction And there are a lot of steps there and there, you know, lots of stakeholders, you know, you've got the HVAC providers and the, you know, customers, whether they're residential or commercial. So I think it's a really complicated topic. So I'm wondering, are you thinking that maybe, I mean, I'm reading from this, maybe you're thinking we just start with commercial spaces?
I would like to
So
start
in
somewhere.
general, so, yeah, I agree with you, and
I would
it'd
like
be
to
good
do
to give
something.
some guidance to the energy committee on what
Yeah.
they should focus on in this regard, because there's been a tremendous amount of discussion since I've been on that committee, prior to becoming a counselor. A lot of discussion and very little direction. So we had something that they could focus on, in terms of, and
So can they-
to chime in, I just think like, do this one thing this year, you know, like.
Can this be
exactly
tasked,
focus.
can it be tasked to the energy committee, the way pickleball was tasked to the rec and parks
That's what we
committee?
should
That's
do.
what I would like to do.
Yeah,
And have them come back with a proposal to
Yes.
council.
I'd like to do that.
is this thing about converting.
So that just goes on,
construction
that just
to-
goes on to the onto the energy committee work plan, not
Yeah.
onto.
That would make sense to me.
Use
Yeah.
I mean,
expertise.
we tried to have that conversation.
No, for a second. The intention of today is not to have a policy conversation here. The intention of today is to talk about what is the work you would like your professional staff to work on and the committees to work on,
Yeah.
and that you will work on. Our recommendation, because Bettina is Bettina, is that we let her finish well the building and thermal implementation plan. That will have many of these things. And Andrew, I'm seeing where you wrote that, you wrote a lot
Yeah.
of very specific tactical things that will fall under the building and thermal, which is why we integrated that whole paragraph over into that one. So our recommendation is let us focus on doing a plan well, and Bettina can talk to you about where that is if you'd like. If you would like to pull out in parallel a very specific thing that you can with no staff support to a committee, you can do that. I think that you run a risk of either one, making it really challenging for Bettina to be successful, or two, having something come to you that has had no operational oversight.
I hear where you're coming from and I agree with everything you said, but to add an additional risk to that, you risk, you know, the flip side of that is that you risk having a committee that's not getting anything. And I think that that's something that you know, they did the energy festival, but there's just a lot of going around and around and around, having very deep discussions, philosophical and, you know, data discussions and not very much action. So I'm just wondering how we can be more effective in this particular item that Andrew brought up.
Well, let me ask,
Let's talk about it.
Giving them a very focused, I don't know when we have that discussion of, we're asking the committee to please focus on one thing and this is it. This is the one that we prioritize. So I guess that's where I'm
So you're
coming
talking about efficacy of the committee,
Yeah,
which is
I'm
a
talking
different
about-
conversation.
I mean, I guess Bettina, if we were to charge the energy committee with doing something like this, it might be this, or maybe another idea, but you know, reporting on emissions data. Does that interfere with getting the thermal, the plan done? I mean, do you see that as problematic?
So what I would say is that until we have that plan, which will hopefully finish by March or so, it is gonna be hard, by March. Until we have that done, it is gonna be hard for me to provide additional support to the committee on that task. If the committee is willing to take on that task and run with it, that is great, but
That's staff support.
that's kind of what I'm thinking, at least until then, right? And then, you know,
So
I
then,
mean, and it can be an issue that, you know, we have two representatives from the committee that are in the advisory group for the plan, and therefore they can bring this up as well within that setting. Can be talked about then, whether that should be something that needs to get elevated, you know, within the plan or something like that.
so if Beth decided that she was gonna be a liaison for something that happened outside of staff, the committee could do it and it wouldn't impact your work.
I mean, the committee can have discussions
That's-
on
That's a.
anything that's directed by council. So if you direct the committee to talk about that, they'll talk about it.
I just want to make sure that we have a consensus among the council that we're going to ask the committee to do this thing, because this is a priority for several people on the council. This, you know, this what Andrew brought up, you know,
Not for me.
do something in this,
Not for me.
not for you. but-
Weatherization is more important to me than shaming people about what the index number is on their buildings.
That's what I'm saying, like weatherization is a part of it. I'm just suggesting that this, I think this category of things is a priority for at least the four of us. I don't know where Elizabeth stands on it. This is a priority for several people on the council. But it seems to be.
Do her job and create this plan, okay? The problem, come up with those actions that
The
they're.
problem I see with that, Tim, is it's still like about a year away, and then once you have the plan, then you first have to, I mean, it's like, we just keep kicking this can down the road. And it's not that hard to think of things that could be in place sooner than that to make progress.
So
Whether
I would suggest that we,
That's an element.
move this conversation to a council meeting.
So we're going.
Because
to
it's
policy
really a
here.
question of,
Getting off.
is the council going to task Beth and the committee with doing something that's outside of staff's purview right now? And we can have that at a separate council meeting. We can have this discussion, put this on an agenda.
Okay.
We can have this discussion and then see what Beth wants to spearhead with the committee. Separate from staff.
And I'm happy to help.
Yeah, and I apologize for not us on track. I just feel like this is something that needs to be resolved somehow, and maybe a council meeting is the way to do it.
I think we're good.
And I agree.
So
Elizabeth, do you have a comment?
No, I think that's a good resolution for it. What I was going to say was, I think managing expectations of committee work in terms of what might ultimately come forward has always been a balancing act. So I think this is a great resolution to have that conversation and determine if this is the highest priority for them to work on. And absent Bettina's availability for oversight, there's work that could be done on benchmarking other municipalities and advising council on what's been adopted elsewhere and what were some of the benefits and pitfalls of that sort of thing. So I think it's a good resolution.
can I add a friendly amendment to that council discussion that we include lessons learned from the transportation implementation plan and how that followed from once we had a plan?
Sure.
Again, I apologize, I got us.
So what I made you for that one, because you should be doing that work as you give the energy committee a work plan. So I may put that on when you approve the policies and strategies document and just not approve the energy one until you have that conversation. Okay, are we good?
Yes.
Okay. Closing active transportation gaps, comprehensive trail network map, possible app.
That's me. As we are getting our trails connected, I think if we had something tangible for people who are riding bikes to see what's out there, it would be huge.
Okay, I'm gonna move that over to core government.
Well, we have maps, they're just not updated.
We don't have.
I'm gonna move it over to core government. I think that's a basic communications thing.
Perfect.
So you mean like storyboards on the side of the path saying.
No, I'm talking about a trail map.
When you enter Samansky,
Maybe on your phone or maybe a paper one.
but when you enter Samansky today, there's a map, but it's old, it doesn't show everything.
And it's not a bike path. Okay,
But it's not covered.
We ordered it some Samansky map last week.
We did.
The same one that went up in City Center Park, Samansky and Farrell have been ordered. Samansky might have been installed.
To update.
It got updated it was the same active transportation map that just went up in City Center Park. And your approved CIP,
They're never good.
CIP has wayfinding money in it the next 3 years.
But it would be great to have that in paper that would be like at bike shops and, everywhere so that.
What country are you living in?
We say we can produce either online interactive versions or paper.
That would, just getting it distributed so that people know. Because most people don't just look at the kiosk and.
Okay,
Just kidding.
cultural plan, we have a yes, and we have a include in budget discussion.
So, I mean, as we talk about spending money on more plans, which is just not the plan, but the implementation of the plan, hiring people to do the plan. I want to have a fulsome budget discussion, again, with the community with tremendous pressure from lots of directions. And I think before we add new stuff, we need to fold that into the framework of our budget.
This plan has been languishing for 2 years, and this committee has been waiting for this money to implement this.
So I'm not saying
We had to put it off last year and the year before that, and we really need to move forward. We have ARPA inspired funds. This is a go. In my mind. Can I have another counselor? Two more counselors join me, please.
I'll join you.
Elizabeth. Okay.
As well.
Oh, sorry, Elizabeth.
I was just gonna say, one quick comment is, I mean, I'm gonna be coming back with the same discussion on the housing needs assessment, so I'll look for your support, Tim, on that. But I would anticipate, I'm not anticipating this particular one requiring a lot of funding. I may be wrong on that, but maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse. But I do agree with Tim. It's kind of been languishing, and I don't know what it will look like, but I think it rounds out a lot of what the city plan identified. So I do agree. At some point, you have to put your money where your mouth is.
Okay, downtown parking management plan. Questions about this?
Can you just give me a little primer on that? I'm not really sure what it entails.
Yeah, so we did, wrapped up maybe 9 months, a year ago, a parking management plan for city center for paid parking. With paid parking is pretty much the only tool. Not that that's not true. Paid parking is an important tool in managing vibrancy in downtowns because you want to encourage turnover of certain parking spaces that allow businesses to see foot traffic. So you don't want, residential tenants to park in front of Felino's for a week and a half. You want those spaces to turn over. So we have a parking management plan on the shelf ready to go. Quite honestly, we are waiting for the political moment to start the implementation process. So I've worked for 4 municipalities. This is the only one without paid parking. It's fantastic to not manage paid parking. But if we want to be a real downtown, we are going to need to do that at some point, but it will be a political challenge for all of us. So we want to wait until the kind of pressure point becomes one that there's really a need for having paid parking downtown. So it's kind of keeping it on there to take the temperature of how full are the storefronts, what's the pressure from the business community, what are the downtown property owners saying about parking that's happening on their lots that could be public parking, those kinds of things.
So the question for us is, do we keep this on the?
Yep, we just keep it on and we'll react to you when the moment is right.
Yes. Okay, I just wanted to understand what I was.
Yeah, Alana has a ton of information about this if you want to have a sidebar with her.
Don't worry, you'll have a dedicated council parking spot, no fee.
I don't mind paying. Right.
After 6:30, no charge.
Right answer.
Don't mind it.
Drinking water master plan, please explain.
Can you explain that again? Somebody just go over that. I don't remember what.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's you, Tom.
What is the drinking water master plan about?
So we have a master plan. Every 10 years, we redo it, we update it, we reprioritize, we'll take a look at where the system's at. So this is a thing we do as a matter of course. We have funding in this current fiscal year.
Yeah.
We've already started it. They're out doing flow testing, things like that this spring.
Okay, so you're updating it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was a brand new thing. So.
Sounds like core. It sounds like core.
Government?
Core government.
No, it's just, you should all know we have one and we're doing it. Move too many of our things in public works to core government,
Thank you for doing it.
Does it take a lot of staff time?
It takes a lot of time from our water department, and then of course we hire a consultant to help us do the, And then so it's basically plan review for myself and Brett, your deputy director of water resources, writing some input. Not a huge amount. But we run past the planners too.
Heat action plan, discussion, please. Identify and document existing cooling areas.
But there's a tie-in with the EOP as well.
On the EOP, we say, somebody says, would this also be included or dovetail with prospective heat action plan? Did somebody, so I can talk about these two. So yes, yes, but also a lot of other types of emergencies, so we didn't specifically call it out, but it would certainly be part of an emergency operation, like a school shooting would, or a big traffic jam, or a flood, plainly in the air. Well, there's a lot of them.
Or nice incursion. So will it be a separate heat action plan or will it be a part of the emergency operation?
So it would include, the emergency operation plan would include lots of different kinds of emergencies, many of which have Venn diagrams to the kinds of resources and responses that are needed.
Like early warning systems and that kind of thing.
Sir, Bettina, if you want to talk about this.
So my question is there an intent to have a separate heat action plan to have the elements that are needed to address heat emergencies in the EOP?
I just want to speak to how we framed it, or like kind of what we took away after our conversation internally. And so the emergency operations plan kind of came up as a new item during our discussions. And one of the things that was identified is that within that plan, there would most likely be elements of a heat action plan. It's not clear yet if it would be kind of the full action plan would be embedded in that plan, or if there'd still be a need for components of a separate plan. So the idea here was that the emergency operations plan would be completed in this fiscal year, and we're kind of on a waiting pause mode with the heat action plan to see.
So yeah, time out. Corbin, you own the emergency operations plan. Can you talk to this?
Yeah, I think that the identification of climate-related action plans, shelters, and the such will be referenced in the emergency operations plan. There is not an intention at this point to write specific climate action emergency operations procedures within that document. Probably one of the scariest parts of that is everything else that we can conceive happening. The police department, the fire department, public works department, and all the other resources of the city, we can pretty much staff all those things or bring people in to staff those things. A shelter, no one here, to my knowledge, has any experience or knowledge on being a shelter manager or how we would obtain the mass amount of volunteers that we would need to do that. So I think that it's a two-part problem. Yes, acknowledging it in the EOP, but making it its own standalone, separate procedural document.
And where would you even get space, and have you talked to the school?
So in our local emergency management plan, we have an agreement and earmark the fact that all of the schools can be shelters. But literally, that would be the fire chief, the police chief telling someone, hey, send all these people to the school. Hey, school, we're sending people there. And
turn on the AC.
Yeah, exactly.
And the intention is this up to 72-hour kind of until the feds arrive as REOP. Right. We're not talking about operating a cold weather or hot weather shelter. Like that had never been the context in which the EOP considered. So sure, we sheltered people when we had to evacuate the building on Montpelier, right? So they sheltered at St. Mike's. That is the type of sheltering we envision, not setting up either heating shelters or cold weather shelter or shelters.
Yeah, if I may add to that, we were kind of identifying, acute versus chronic, right? And so the emergency operations plan is about acute situations. That's the 72 hours that is.
Analogy.
And so a heat action plan would have to also look at the chronic, right? And so I am very aware of that, but as a first step, we kind of want to see, okay, what would we do in like the worst case scenario? And what are the implications of that? And then hopefully move from that to something bigger, but yes.
Could we call it a heat wave action plan instead? Because it gets confusing with something else. I mean, is that a normal term to use as the heat action? Heat wave? It is?
Yeah. Yeah, and other places are doing this, around the country. I know there's some volunteer.
No, I understand that,
So I would also suggest that we may want to include this as we, in the fall, have our legislative, if we keep on wherever it is around here, the legislative work, that we may want to include this in our legislative advocacy, because there is honestly no way 251 communities across Vermont are going to be able to develop the shelter capacity that would be needed for chronic events. And is this a municipal responsibility or is this a state responsibility? Some of you have heard me say a lot, shelters are a state responsibility. It is not in Title 24. So is this something that we want to stand up and start operating, or is this something that we want to advocate for a change in statewide policy?
So just to go back to that for a second, so Tina, this is something that you're going to be working on this year. The heat action.
So I think what we came down to in terms of capacity wise, is that I'll be working on the acute part of it this year as part of this EOP. Okay. And then hopefully we'll, I had it in for FY26 and I just did not have the capacity to tackle it. So, kind of like readjusting, okay, like how much can I actually take in?
That's really important work.
Okay, the next one is housing needs assessment included in budget discussion.
Make the same comment.
So I think Elizabeth, maybe go like you, I think that this, to me, this is the same conversation as
Yeah, it is. I don't know that, I think there'll be a recommendation for funding. I don't know the extent of funding requirements in FY27. I think that's the open area. And I think that could also, the timing of that could be managed in terms of, what fiscal quarter it hit to. But I do, this is in the city plan, and it is one of the bigger gaps in terms of a master plan that was identified. So I do support this one.
Could you touch on a little bit? You said the beginning, you said there's going to be just repeat what you said about funding.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Andrew.
Can you repeat what you were saying about funding? I'm sorry.
Oh, just that part of the needs assessment needs to be to develop the scope of what would go to a consultant. So there may not be, I don't know the timing of the work. I don't know if there would be a specific funding request. And it could be timed to be later. So it might be a partial funding request that would hit the 27 budget.
Oh, okay, because the staff action says identify funding, issue RFP. What you're describing sounds a little more advanced of that. Like, let's first figure out what we want to do, and then we'll come to those items.
Let me see what the actual was. Review private feedback. Yeah, I do anticipate this being largely scoping the project. I don't know, Jesse or Paul, I see you're assigned to this now. I don't know if Kelsey's there or not, but I think that could be managed, so there might be minimal impact on the 27 budget.
So scoping, I agree.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that one of the timing factors with this is the Regional Planning Commission is going to be undertaking a housing needs assessment at the regional level. So we have, or I've initiated a conversation with them about how do we dovetail with that effort so we're not doubling expenditures on a very similar topic. How do we take what they're doing, adjust as necessary in order to get something that meets our needs, knowing that housing is really not an entirely local issue in terms of needs, and then direct either late in this fiscal year or next year, funding towards what is our plan based on the assessment. And
we
so
can wait for them. We can wait for the regional housing.
So they're gonna likely issue an RFP mid-fall this year. And so there may be components of it that we would want to participate in at that time to sort of, I don't want to say ride their coattails, but take advantage of the fact that there's an entity doing work that can help us to get more bang for our buck.
So what you were saying, and what Elizabeth was saying about scope makes sense to me, but I don't think that's what this says.
So what I'm hearing is, so what we have in our FY27 action, identify funding, prepare scope, issue RFP, select consultant, and initiate assessment. That's what we do all the time with when you ask us to do plans. We can amend that to say, review CCRPC's efforts in the fall and make a recommendation on South Burlington's partnership expansion from there.
And identify scope.
Well, I think the housing committee is going to be, regardless of what comes in the fall, I think the housing committee is going to be working on the scope elements before then.
And can our scoping somehow inform their RFP?
I think, so that would be a goal of mine, is that that's why we started a conversation, so that from the beginning, they're thinking about one of their larger communities is interested in being collaborative in this. So that's exactly. And so I think it's all iterative, all these things together, in my view, but.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, so I'm gonna keep this on here, and I'm saying something about CCRPC, get feedback from Paul on fine-tuning the language before we bring you the final document. Parks and Open Space Master Plan, Rec, Parks, and NRCC. You're just saying NRCC needs to be added here?
Yeah, it says Recreation and Parks Committee do this. Then NRCC is doing that as well.
Great, easy. EOP we talked about. Pavement management plan, more robust patches.
Yeah, that's me. So our roads, I know, our roads have suffered greatly, right? And so the patching is patchwork, right? So some patches, some areas are not patched. So the question I'm asking is that, are we doing the best road technological patchwork that we could get to be able to do longer term repairs that, on those areas that are delaminating? Because right now it's like throw and go or something like that, right? Essentially. Right? And so when I talked to Adam at the Public Works, he said some of the simple one-layer delaminations aren't worth putting, any hot patch in because it'll just pop out. That being said, if it's warm weather, right, and they're in the bike lane, right, those become, obstacles for people, even if it's just 2 inches in it, and it just makes, riding harder for those that are in those areas. So I guess 2 things. One, my goal is to fill every pothole if it's going to be hit by a tire. And then 2, is there some other technology that we can use that we may have to put in the CIP in the future to do better patching that's longer term and will last through a winter until something can get milled and refilled? That's all I'm asking.
I think it just comes back to paving frequency. I mean, there are some interventions we can do. We're doing some crack sealing this summer. We haven't done that for a number of years. We have different tools to the toolbox of pavement management. So some of that we can do. Some of it is just we go a very long time between paving due to funding restrictions, right? More funding in that line item equals more paving. Also, you got to put aside Williston Road right now, as I hope everyone knows, with the Class 1 and V-Trans, which is, and some of these roads, like Patchen Road's another good example. We've sort of left some of that to not do a ton of spending because that's getting paved after July 1.
Right.
And as I was joking, just it's a dollar issue. So our crew is limited in size. They can go out and patch potholes. We get a lot of calls, as you can imagine, about potholes. We put them on a list and we go out and we fill them. But we've pulled them off that right now because they're doing structure work before major paving operations. So it's sort of a crew limitation what we can do. So even if we had a bunch more money in that line item, we might end up using that to have a contractor go out and do some patching for us, or we might find some other ways to go out. We can talk, I guess, more about different strategies in the interim, Tim, and when we develop a pavement management plan.
Yeah.
I think the idea is not to let them get there in the first place, right?
Right.
To do that intervention early on.
So my desire is to, what can we do better in patching potholes in the paving management plan? I guess, that's all.
I have a related question. So, and you know, this is just a sort of high level question about the function of municipal government and how we reallocate money from one place to another. Because this is like, if there's anything that defines, you know, I think anyway, in my mind, the function of the city government is to maintain the roads. And if we've only got 4 guys on it and.
We have more in highway.
What's
We have
that?
more than 4 guys in highway, I think.
We have more than 4, well, yeah, whatever the number is, I don't know if, you know, when does the council have a discussion about, you know, perhaps increasing funding for the roads and, you know, so that balancing staffing so that we put more staff on that problem instead, you know, just wondering when's the.
So that is often a conversation during the budget cycle. The council has, in the last couple of budget cycles, increased the funding to paving, and increased. We added 1 staff person for this a cycle ago, with last year's budget. So that has been a budgetary conversation, will continue to be. I think our hope with this pavement management plan is to, at last year's budget cycle, Tom gave a great presentation on the standard at which we maintain our roads and what level of funding would we need to invest in to hit that, and we're a couple $1 million off of that, and how incrementally do we change that over time. So we're trying to have this plan be a follow-up to that, to give the council more real data-driven information on that budget conversation.
Given that presentation that Tom gave us last year, it highlighted the gap between what we would like to do and what we have to do it, the funds we have to do it with, and what it would take to get our roads kept in the condition we want. And so this is a really critical piece for us, I think. And I'm wondering whether going forward, whether we're going to need to change expectations about road condition, given what that presentation was last fall. And hopefully a management plan will help us get clear about that.
No,
Elizabeth, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure changing expectations is the goal I would shoot for, but I did get a great education from Tom and Adam, and I think there's a really nice, or not nice, but it's an opportunity for legislative advocacy here as well on funding and the methodology used for funding. And it goes back to even the paving schedule, but there have been some discretionary, albeit a real shortfall of funds on the maintenance side that were allocated. But the methodology that's used might not reflect the volume of traffic that some of the state highways that run through South Burlington are experiencing. So I would like to see those 2 issues married up as well.
So a couple of pounds in question. Is there any technology, Tom, for increasing the durability of particular roads, or making the bed deeper or the asphalt deeper for roads that are seeing heavy traffic, and do we employ that technology?
So I think we've inherited certain, trying to answer this quickly. You design roads based on the traffic and weight, right? And so you would do that up front. Now we've inherited roads like Spear Street that have been there forever that perhaps don't have the appropriate base. Now to reconstruct a road like Spear Street would be very expensive. And so whenever we have a situation like that, like we have on Old Farm Road is another example, more specific, right? That one probably doesn't have the base material you'd want for a road if we were building that today. So we have to go back and redo it. And then it stands up better. Pavement technology's come a long way over the last couple of decades too. And we have some older pavement out there, right? So as we get the newer pavement down, that's also
Specifically in the pavement management plan, you would do a comparison. If we were to tear up Spear and build it better, it would last umpteen years longer, therefore saving us But on the other hand, I mean, will we see that kind of thing? So we could make a decision as to whether in fact it makes sense to just build it better once and then not have to repair as many times in the future, or whether because of this existing state, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so if you look in your email at 8:10 this morning, we had a resident 19 days ago ask some detailed questions about paving. So I responded this morning to see where we are. And we're gonna put that email into a plan. But we can definitely do some things like that with some estimates. We are gonna start using a new software. So we have like an older DOS-based software we use now. We're gonna get some modern software, plug it in, and we can do a lot more decision tree type predictive modeling, put in costs, run scenarios a lot quicker.
That'd be great.
So that's what the new pavement management plan will allow us to do as well.
Then I also have a comment. So I mentioned this before. I think Washington State took a look at the impact of studded tires on their roads. It concluded that studded tires have vastly disproportional, impact on the roads. And because of technology around winter tires, Washington State concluded studded tires really weren't needed anymore. I'm pretty sure it just banned the state. I'd love for us to kick off a lobbying effort with the state just to study this question, because maybe we're just doing things wrong, and maybe we have an opportunity to impact how our roads wear in the future.
Yeah, those are stuff. Yeah, I would agree that that's having an impact on our roads instead of tires in the summer. Because you see those wear.
There's an item here for lobbying the state, and I'd love to make that one of the lobbying items.
I am keeping a list through this of things to put under that website.
Only other thing I want to know is every time we look at PCI, the pavement condition index scores across the region, we're actually higher than most communities. So I think how you feel about the road depends specifically on which road you drive on. So if your commute is Patchen Road to Williston Road, you don't feel great about South Burlington roads. But if it is, some other route, you might feel fine about them. So on the average, right, if you look at it, our roads are actually scoring higher than most communities at our current funding levels. That's not to say it's acceptable to everyone, but it really depends what road you're driving every day sometimes, or is in the paving cycle.
So I'm hearing vehement agreement to keep the pavement management plan.
It's a related question. I'm sorry to drag this out, but I think the roads it's like a really important topic. Tom, I had a really brief hallway discussion with you about what happens to the roads when there's a development going in somewhere, and how they do a lot of damage to the roads, and what's our process for making sure that we are measuring the damage that they're doing and making sure that they're paying for that damage. I wonder if someone could enlighten me on that, because I think that, I don't know if this is the place to have that discussion, but I live up near where they're doing the developments on Dorset, and they are destroying the road. And the path is gone, the rec path is just garbage now.
Yeah, so specifically, if someone is driving their car and they damage your infrastructure and there's a police report, we will follow up with their insurance company. So then we'll get those monies back through insurance, or we'll make a claim. For a developer, that's a little different. For a large development, we will get a bond, so we can make sure they're building all the new stuff properly. That bond doesn't cover the adjacent stuff, right? Like the bike path that is now been impacted on Park Road. So what happens in those instances is I or one of my staff will notice that. We'll go talk to the contractor. In that specific example, we said, just so you guys know, you're repaving this whole thing because you've destroyed it, though we've warned you a couple times, right? So it's really more of there's no formal policy is what I think Beth was asking at the time. We have to keep track of that. For the roads, it's a little more difficult. We also have to prove kind of the damage they've done. Sometimes we'll just go in and make repairs. Sometimes when they go in to pave their road, we'll have them touch things up. Because it's a little more ad hoc than sort of a firm policy.
I had it on my.
I would say I hear what you're saying, that it's ad hoc, but it is one of the ways we have a great partnership between Public Works and Planning and Zoning here, that we know what development is happening and we are keeping eyes on it systematically through that process. So it's not just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this construction was happening. Like, the construction is happening. You have the ability to go look.
But it's kind of a negotiation. They're not required to do the repairs. You're sort of asking them, will you please do these repairs because you've torn up X public asset, including trees for that matter. I don't know if that's a thing, but I think I had that in one of my priorities for this fiscal year, was to develop some kind of ordinance around, and maybe I'm just too ignorant of the process, but it just seems like there ought to be like a rule about that. If you destroy a rec path, we're not going to negotiate. We want you, it's understood that you're going to replace that, or if you destroy the roots of a public tree, which is an asset to the, it's a publicly owned asset, you're going to replace that tree. I just.
Could it be in the permit? Could it be in the permit? That kind of obligation?
I just think we need to make this priority.
Adjacent things, I don't know how I would estimate that.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are all things that are possible. I think the challenge is that, as Tom was describing with new infrastructure, we know what is being built. We don't necessarily know every implication of a project that hasn't happened yet. So we could guess that the rec path would be impacted, and that one's a fairly clear one. But whether a road with having a number of big trucks on it, whether that was the tipping point on that for that project, and what proportion of reconstructing that is owed, or whether a tree's roots might be impacted, that's a lot of anticipation in advance of, they don't even know their means and methods yet. And I think that's sort of the challenge.
May I request that we put this on an agenda for a council meeting to discuss in more detail, because we did have an ordinance for that in the town that I came from. I'm wondering if we could maybe look at this more closely. This is public money that's used to repair these.
So we also have, just before we create ordinance, we also have right-of-way permits that we issue when they're working in the right-of-way. Now, if they're just damaging the adjacent right-of-way, that's kind of different. We can't really capture it there. Toolbox.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting discussion, because I think I wonder if there's an avenue to document the city-owned resources, the public assets prior to that known construction that's going on, and just say, similar to the way if we do improvements on a property, when we take an easement, we have an obligation to repair elements of a private property owner's land or structure that might have been disrupted. I wonder, and maybe there is something, but I think this is a good conversation, because again, we're going to know where the new development is, and we can at least inventory the public assets around it and have something a little bit more tangible. Because yeah, I've seen that same damage done.
So putting it over there as a new ordinance consideration. I want to pause here. We have about an hour left, and we've made it
Halfway. Yeah.
halfway through.
Maybe.
Very scary to me over there. I would like a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and speed through the rest.
5 minutes.
That sound good? Remember, you are being recorded.
What? Good. Sorry.
About 6 years.
What? It's just that. That's it.
That's what I was gonna say.
But how do you measure how much?
Oh, yes. He's aware. September processing, really.
I'm years behind it.
Very fun.
I'm sorry for that.
Anything you go.
You feel like a lame duck?
So Eric,
Yeah, I can watch
not voting any August.
I do.
Of course.
Maybe it's not the right time. I took such a long vacation over the winter.
And that's the better.
Jarring to come back to. Really sounded fast. Left the day before that November snowstorm that dumped
Came back December. Came back for December. It was the day after we left, I was like seeing on my friend's social media, like just dumping in the snow.
Good, well, now I should smell. That's the way to remember.
So.
Haven't said it yet.
It's the February. February is something that's like crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really should have gone January 10th to February 4th is like what I should have done.
You can't always pick, can we? We need to do it. It comes so. The kiosks are, you know, are the same system as using Renewski and Burlington and everything.
That many hours.
So.
You still have.
Yeah. Spend a lot of time outside. I need to make a quick phone call to get some gravel delivered. This is my window.
What are you doing? What you brought this, that's not to start. Wait, let me, how sent me?
Not sure. No, we can.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
Busy, but we're doing okay. Most of our family still does not know. My dad caught me, I slipped up and said the word honeymoon one day. He'd been on us to get married for a while. And in a nice way, he's not pushing me about any of it. But I said, he was like, what did you do? Oh, she was create my way out of that green. He knew, so he knows, but he's also a good secret. So he had points. We just want to wait for the big save up and like.
I've done many pre-weddings. I have a lot of military people. And I travel together in military aircraft. They cannot live together unless they are married. And I had one couple that were heading to San Diego to get married, but they couldn't go on the plane together because they weren't married. So, yeah, I've done a lot of it.
Technicalities, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. And particularly guys who are being deployed, they want to get married quickly, move in. They can't even rent the place until they have a wedding certificate. So, yeah.
I understand why all of that's there in my face, but it's certainly extra. Yeah, it's offset from the celebration. Yeah, so it's still secret. All my students know.
Yeah, I did a wedding the day that the heating system in my house was being totally torn apart.
Oh my goodness, good.
Because my heating system was deemed to be dangerous. They say.
Or was it?
Was the furnace that was dangerous, doing a lot of classes. You know, it was a technology that isn't used in all our lives. Cost, you know, billions to. So we might have a very system. Very expensive. The radiators on blowing up, and I have these two young ladies. And I warned them, I said, this is gonna be. They were.
Very.
I just keep saying, at least it's not a Saturday. Don't overdo it.
Used to work, the one who worked. And then I used to own bar, work for that. Yeah.
I like that about Vermont. It's smaller people have those encounters.
Scouter, as I called it, the other day. And he was talking about maybe, well, he had married a former friend of mine, and I went to graduate school together. Years and
And you could recognize each other.
Good to see you too.
You know what, with the HR people, they just watch, they watch people that go, they go, everybody knows. I'm start writing that person up. A little bit.
Stop.
I just said, lost the HR guy. He's so. Listen, nobody's come back. Steve Krill.
It's a fascinating conversation.
We still have some big items coming up, so.
Yeah, it was my lunch. Yeah. Yeah, so I was thinking. No, that. Counselor. We have to go, it's this, or no, it's this, quiet coyote. Quiet coyote. Sixth grade. Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm gonna try and put this along here. The next one is E911 addressing updates. No. No.
That was me. So Google Maps knows every house on every street. It doesn't care whether you have an E911 address or a legacy address. Why are we bothering? We do not want to tell residents they have to change their address. That is a huge, in our digital environment, that's a huge burden for people that have to change all that. Including their passports.
Can we talk about from a state requirement and public safety requirement?
Yeah.
All.
So at a high level, this subject is coming to us, regardless. And so, neighborhoods built before the 90s were addressed only for 13579. As new development takes place in between, it is forcing readdressing of the entire street. And it's happening one-off, and it is without the context, people don't like it, and it's very difficult. And we're getting more and more this sort of scattershot of one street uses the new system, because as soon as you update it, you have to update it correctly. The next street over is using the old system. So that's sort of the planning and the fundamentals of what's happening.
So I'll speak to it from two aspects. Number one, the E911 board has approached us and said, you have many addresses that violate the E911 policy. And we'd like to see you start correcting them. From an emergency response standpoint, our dispatch systems are built in a way that only accept E911 addressing. So when the dispatcher takes a phone call in these areas, they have to do one of two things: either enter the information in a convoluted, inaccurate way to get the system to accept it, or not get the system to accept it and actually have to do more work by telling us after the fact where we are actually going. The second problem with that is it's easy for me, who's been here for 23 years, to know the layout of Grandview Drive. I'll use that as an example because that's a prime neighborhood that is done inaccurately. But when we share resources, have outside agencies coming in using the same software that we do, that software tells them where to go. And when the address isn't entered, they have actually no way of knowing how to get to the address.
Chris, I think the specific examples that you talked about, we have a few neighborhoods that start with a letter, not a number.
Yeah.
And that doesn't.
Correct, yeah,
So
so
that's not a citywide problem, but there's 2 or 3 neighborhoods, large ones that are.
large neighborhoods, yes.
Yeah, so all of Stonehenge, all of Grandview starts with a letter, not a number. So like I lived in G11 Stonehenge Drive, does not fit with any system. The system can't accept it. FedEx doesn't know where it is. 911 doesn't know where it is.
Yeah, that's a good point. FedEx, UPS, all of them use the same nomenclature that they actually don't know where it is.
Okay, so in the interest of moving us along, these are really fast. We can come, anything you hear today that you want just a deeper education on, let us know. We're happy. We love talking about this stuff.
Yep.
Anyone want to join Tim in saying no to this? Excellent.
Slow it down though.
Airport adjacent area planning, go slow. That's also you, Tim.
What was that?
Airport adjacent area planning.
Yeah, just a caution on that, as you move forward, that just thinking about the optics with the neighborhood and what it is you're contemplating, that's all, just a caution.
Okay. Fossil fuel heating replacement, a lot to talk about here.
So we already talked about it.
Very much. Yes. That's a great answer. Multi-unit weatherization plus program. Discussion in conjunction with fossil fuels still the same? Need more time?
Same. Yeah. Same. Pass.
We're fine now. Cemeteries governance. Variant anti-D and South also.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a cemetery, people are getting cremated every day. They would like to put their loved ones in a locker or niche. Let's move on that, because we could be selling those and it would pay for itself essentially over time.
The cemeteries would love it. They can't wait till they can sell, but they can't sell until the system's set up.
I'm just saying, let's move on. Yeah.
That's why we hired somebody.
It's just one of the little things. I like the fact that we have a cemetery sign that's misspelled. That's kind of cute. Do we have to actually replace it, even though it's got the wrong letter? Just putting that out there.
Okay. Jessica, can you just 30 seconds on the status of the cemetery administrator? Is that?
It's a job that you funded for FY27.
Yeah.
We need to post it. We haven't done that yet. Other things have gotten in the way. As soon as Patty and I have a minute. No, I don't know right now. Right on. This one you're saying that? Oh, wow. Good job.
That goes on the other stuff.
Okay. Growth management process, impact fees as growth cost, provide update to council.
Yeah, so just saying that impact fees should play a large role.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, agreed.
And I just would like to know what's happening with the process and where it is and what the thoughts are around it.
Yeah. No, my thoughts are on that. Super excited for that. But actually, in all seriousness,
I'm looking for more than that. That's a great start.
Paul and I actually had a long conversation, had a conversation about this yesterday. I think that while we haven't moved forward the formal process, I think there are actually a lot of things going on that are building the foundation for being able to look at the data, for being able to look at projections we're building out for other things that we can integrate. So I actually do.
I'd love that report.
Okay.
Just to keep us moving.
Okay, so now we're on the bike rack. So anything that comes off of here over there. Oh, sorry, thank you.
Oh, sorry, just echoing comments on the growth management. Want to hear more?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So things that come off the bike rack, we may need to have some capacity conversations about.
You want to bring a wood rack over there? So we're talking about that.
Okay, term change for building code inspection for climate regulations. We have a yes, we have an inspector and reporting, we have. Oh, this is new construction, inspection to energy codes, and yes.
I needed to understand why that was under charter change.
Colin?
Sure. So we're a village rule state, you know, to make this as short as possible, we're a village rule state. We have only authority granted to us that the legislature gives to us. We have authority relating to what really boils down to, in my opinion, yeah. Yeah, it really boils down to health and safety. And health and safety, as the legislature has interpreted, granted to us is mainly fire codes, building codes that have been adopted by the state. Our authorities, we also have the residential building energy codes and the commercial building energy codes, which grant specific authority in another area and talk about how we're supposed to deal with those, which is different than how we deal with health and safety. So by doing so, the legislature has really spelled out that, okay, so you have a group of authority over here, which allows for really like individual health and safety, which is, we don't want you to burn down and die in a fire. We don't want your neighbor's building to burn down and die in a fire. We want your buildings to be safe, so all of that doesn't happen. That's really where the legislative authority comes from. As I've looked at this and reviewed this, we don't have the authority, or we have limited authority or risky authority to move forward on expanding that authority to say, you know, health and safety is really something broader than I'm nervous about burning down. And to say it's more broader reach of adopting regulations that deal with a climate issue or something like that, expands the authority that's been granted to us by the legislature. And my concern puts the city at risk for challenge and puts the regulations at risk for challenge. And so a charter change is the same thing as a state law. If you pursue a charter change and want to get this authority from the legislature, that I believe is why that's mostly up there, is your ability to do the regulations that the legislature has not yet given you authority to.
Colin, could you remind, when we adopted the rental regulations, there was some other part of this statute that we levered on recently, housing something?
Absolutely. So it was mostly like the fire and electricity codes, and the ordinance related to that. We relied on legislation that the state has granted us on minimum housing, essentially.
Right, minimum housing. And I remember reading the minimum housing, and there was a really broad grant. And it went like bent over backward to say, and we're giving wide discretion to municipalities to interpret what this means, right? And it was, and the wording was very general in terms of being able to legislate once you adopt this minimum housing standard. And I guess in my mind, honestly, and I don't remember exactly the words were, like 6 months ago, it seemed to me that grant was broad enough to cover this.
Okay, so again, try not to get into the policy debate in the room.
Okay.
So I think why it's on the bike rack for us is that, again, this is to us a task under the building and thermal energy plan. And if you want, but it is a specific thing that's brought that would require a lot more legislative public vote than just setting up a little program. That's something heavy lift. So if you want to have council discussion about this, we should move it off the bike rack, and we can give you legal guidance, we can give you past examples, et cetera.
I would like that, Lou. I would like at least to get to the bottom of this discussion about whether we need a charter change for this. And I want
I'm hearing one yes to move this off the bike rack. 2 yeses, 3 yeses, 4 yeses.
Yes or no?
I would say I would not want to move this off the bike rack yet. I don't think it's ready for that.
You got 4.
Can we,
And it's to have the discussion, not necessarily to initiate a charter change.
Yep.
I had also put on my slip there, reporting. And maybe we're gonna talk about this later on the core, but in my mind, inspection enforcement is one thing, but you know, reporting back to us as a council, it's how folks are implementing, right? What's
The ordinances?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on that now.
We are, okay.
Is that part?
Reporting on.
How much solar we've installed, you know.
Oh, okay, that's.
Construction, what are they doing? Are they using electricity? Are they using heat pumps? You know, that, so we, right, so we have a sense of how it's working and whether we need to make changes. And we can talk to the public about the great things we've done and legislated. That's in the works?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Invasive plants preparedness, move off bike rack, cost, involve community.
Which one is that?
Invasive plant preparedness, maintain and improve quality of existing natural area parks. And consider foreign ways by developing programs around invasive removals to ensure public spaces and habitats are not overrun.
So I put the note there, involve community. I think there'd be a ton of community support for volunteer efforts to do just that. And that support just needs to be rallied and organized. And maybe you're saying we don't have capacity to rally and organize.
We do not have capacity for.
What's the status?
That's it. That could be.
It can be a community. What's the status of the Weed Warrior program? Is it dead now or is it still active?
Indefinitely deferred.
Indefinitely deferred.
We have not been managing a Weed Warriors program for a number of years, or go.
It's basically one person, like,
And he's retired, or he's
going to be.
Yeah. So it would take a community effort to reactivate that rather than a staff effort right now. That's what I'm hearing.
They're gonna be things on city property.
While we wait, they're growing.
Maybe we get, can you just assign this to the NRCC as.
Think about if they don't want to do it and staff doesn't have capacity, it doesn't get done, but it may well be there'll be someone that will be willing to lead it.
So, but I do think, to Tom and Erica's point, this is one that if we're asking a committee to make recommendations on city-owned property without staff support, or that's a risk that we're putting on the committee to produce something that we may come back at you later and say this isn't gonna work for us.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna feel, or the committee's gonna feel like they haven't been effective in doing their work. So we can move it off. I think this is gonna require some staff capacity, so we're gonna have to assess during a transition year if this is really. We do not think we can do a good job of this.
I think it's gotta wait.
What was it? It's one thing to support a program, but it's another to support the NRCC thinking about developing a program, right? I mean, is that a heavy lift?
Yes, it is still a heavy lift because also signing up for something that is a program that needs to be sustained over time. So even if there's the community activation, which happened with Weed Warriors, there was a lot of community energy and it has fallen off and there isn't the staff to backfill that. And this would be tied to many other conversations.
Elizabeth?
I wondered, I think I've seen this in another neighborhood. I don't even remember if it was in our state or not, but if there was an opportunity for NRCC and Park and Recs to collaborate on maybe twice a year to do a volunteer effort, similar to some of the programs that are run that are no cost, kind of whatever it might be, yoga, things like that, but to start to re-engage that community effort in a more informal way. Just a thought.
Green City Park has done that around invasives in Red Rocks Park.
Yeah.
And it's been really hard to keep it motivated. There's really only one person who's still kind of doing it, Larry. It's a great idea. I've seen it fall apart a couple of times.
It's not fun work. I've done it. It's not, but it's not a joyous gay time.
Especially with poison ivy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next.
Okay. Any proposed planning, something will need to go on the ballot in FY29, maintenance pothole routes, move off bike rack.
Yeah, I think we need to start a discussion on that soon.
What what would you want the staff work on that in FY27?
Well, you have to make a decision, right?
For
And determine if maintenance will become an eligible expense from the fund, so.
How many years do we have again? So when do we have to put the ballot item up?
You're collecting it.
So sometime in FY28.
You could vote to extend it beyond that, I think, at any point, and say.
I'm just thinking FY29, so that's
So-
July 29.
So the last time you could put on the ballot would be town meeting day 29.
So March 29, say.
Although if we did it that way, we wouldn't be able to build it into the FY2030
So,
budget.
so really March 28, we're talking.
So,
Like,
yeah.
Less than 2 years from now, to put it on the ballot in a way which gives us time. So that means in the next 6 months, we're gonna wanna have start serious conversations, I think.
So what would you like staff to do for you on that?
So let's back up a second. There are a ton of paths that need a ton of maintenance, and it's not getting done. So my first question is, what do we need to do to get those potholes resolved and those roots removed where they're actually kind of dangerous, right? And if we don't have the money for it, we need to start asking again, can we ask for another change of the penny per pads to dedicate a certain amount of money for maintenance service? Because we need to pay for that. I mean, what's the point of having paths if, 20% of them are not, easily rideable? So that's the question I want to ask you. The question is, do we want to move this thing off the bike road? That's all.
I would say sometime in the fall, staff should maybe be in a position to prepare the council to have these discussions, and sometime on the fall agenda. That's where I would come out.
This is just more budget for path maintenance. That's a budget time discussion. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Because we just upped that budget, right? So we've had many years of deferred maintenance that now we're just starting to address. So the impact will be incremental over time.
No, but you told us, Tom, the budget we have is wholly insufficient, just like road paving, right? I mean, when you did that chart, right? It's like, you need to order magnitude more to actually. So I think that's what this discussion needs to be like. Do we just, incrementally adding 10, 20,000? Do we have a real discussion about what we need?
And I'm not talking about repaving whole paths. I'm just talking about getting rid of the bumps. That's all.
As the staff who will be asked for things, I would like to have clarity on what your specific questions are about what you would like to explore doing or not doing with the penny for paths, so that we can bring you information that is very clear on what should be operational and what is something out of penny for paths.
Yeah, that's the conversation that they would have.
Yes, and so, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Please give it that.
I'm gonna keep it going. Vacant building and graffiti ordinance, limit impacts of graffiti and graffiti. This is one that's been on for a while.
Yeah.
Make owners remove graffiti in 2 days.
Well, so graffiti is one of the, to effectively counteract graffiti, you need an ordinance that requires the owners whose building has been defaced to go paint it over within a very short amount of time to discourage future graffiti. Right, that's how you counteract those events, right? And so if we need an ordinance that reflects that, so we go to the owner and say, you gotta clean this up, period, right? Otherwise, it invites more vandalism in the future. So if we don't have an ordinance like that, we should work on getting that language.
Who on staff do we see as being the person who's gonna manage identifying graffiti and telling building owners what they. This is an honest question to the team. I don't know where this would sit right now.
Do we have a
Maybe this is a policy question for you. Do you guys want this to be an add-on to a police officer with a badge and a gun? Do you want this to be an add-on to building inspectors? Do you want this to be like this?
Zoning administrators.
Is it
Zoning administrators?
In ordinance, these have penalties. It's not
Yeah.
criminal, but it's a civil offense, right?
Yeah.
The police. What is it? What are all those civil offenses?
I mean, I think it's either zoning or fire, our inspection team.
Yeah, personally, I would not add this one at this point. I think we saw the worst of the situation. Um, and I struggle with penalizing the owners for a criminal act. And I don't I don't know the facts, Tim, behind just what painting over it quickly does to discourage it. To me, it would say, "Oh, I got a new canvas to work on," but
So-
yeah.
I don't want to spend.
I feel like this is small potatoes.
I acknowledge that we don't have a large graffiti problem right now, but we have had spots around the city. And when Burlington had this issue before the pandemic, they had a task force that went out and erased it within a couple of days. And it was very effective. Then the pandemic hit and nobody took any action, and the entire walls of all the buildings on like, South Union, right? Near Main Street were just covered. It was awful, right? And other places around Burlington, just with no consequences at all for anybody, and they just remain. So
Let's provide a graffiti wall in the city.
that's a separate issue that goes to the Public Arts Committee.
Okay, so I guess the question is, do you want to have a council conversation about getting into the weeds of this?
We don't have to. I just wanted to.
That's not what I'm saying, but do you want to put this on the council?
I agree with Tim. We did have that pizza hut thing that was there for years and there was no requirement. So yeah, I agree with Tim.
Let's talk about it.
Are you guys thinking about what we're taking off?
So much for shrinking.
No, we're going back to what we're taking off next. Speaking of that,
We did shrink some of the items.
integrated pest management plan reporting.
I'd like to know what we're using. Pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, and how much where.
And that should be a quick.
And why?
Yeah.
What are we?
What kind of pests are we talking?
I don't know.
We're not using a lot of fertilizers almost at all. In the garden, I guess we don't really control what garden users are doing. The only pesticide we're using is a mactin benzoate for the ash trees, which we had many conversations about. And herbicides are very rare use. We have 2 certified state applicators, the arborist and our horticultural specialist. And the only time I can recall we've used herbicides for things when there's like poison oak in the park entrance down Szymanski, when we had to do it for some wetland work where we had to get rid of invasives in a wetland, we had to dab it with rodeo. So it's very limited. It's not a thing we do.
So for instance, like in veterans, we don't, spray like lawn chemicals. We don't.
No, absolutely not.
It is what it is.
We don't even fertilize the grass out there.
Right.
Are we get rid of that one? I'm done. Get rid of that one.
Well, we do use some traps, I guess, things like that.
Rat trap boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I don't even know are there poisons in those. There must be.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
AI note is upload all meeting documents to what's language, whatever else.
Yep.
And use Copilot.
Yeah, so it's just a comment that I'd like to use AI to the best possible advantage of the city. So this is a side comment. This is
I'm doing that. I met him yesterday.
You did what?
I met someone yesterday
Yeah.
who built the large language model, uploading all of the minutes from all of the communities in Vermont so that you can find
Minutes.
local minutes. And he has the 256 gigabytes of South Burlington minutes. So we just have to expand his memory so he can do it.
If you go to local minutes and use it where we.
Well, so the question for Nick is, can we upload the LDRs, all of our ordinances, everything, every document that.
So this is a non-city of South Burlington organization, and I believe he reached out to me a while ago and I gave him all of our minutes and he has access to everything. It's on the web. We don't really have a way to do that. It's very expensive. We wanted to create our own thing to do that. Also, it's horrible for the environment. We can do that, but just know it is horrible for the environment. Yeah. So we don't have, Copilot doesn't really have the tools for us to create our own internal like chatbot or something or agent that can do that. So we would have to pay for some sort of tool to do that. Okay. So we could do it, but it would be a cost, and there is, again, environmental impacts of using that.
Okay. I think this is Dorset Street speed limit review 3540.
What is this again?
35 down, 40 up.
Oh, yeah, Dorset Street has asymmetric speed limits right now. And I think that I'd like to look at reducing the overall speed down to 35 at the Shelburne line all the way down, to Kennedy Drive.
So we've been through this a few times with the state and other places.
Yeah.
Is this something that takes
not
a
a
fair
state-
amount of staff?
Not a state road, so.
Oh, that's true. It's not a
Dorset
state road.
Street, so we can just change an ordinance and then move some signs around it.
We've put this issue and other speed limit change requests sort of in the list, right? And then we rank them. We have the whole thing for traffic calming. So I don't know exactly where this specific issue lived, but I think it lives on the list somewhere.
Yeah, and citywide speed limit review is a recommendation out of the active transportation plan. I think there are some opportunities with the F-250 stuff if we have different allowances around it. So I think the speed limit one is a bigger conversation around the ordinance. But there are certain areas that have gone off.
But is it a general practice to have the same speed limit in both directions on the street?
I think this was a case where something got.
Okay, so right now the signage obeys the ordinance. But I'd like to change the ordinance and then change the signs again. And while we're at it, just make the whole street 35 and we're done.
So we would do a study to look at that, right? Because there may be a reason if it's 40 here, but there might be a sharp curve in this section or low visibility. So we would always do an engineering study before we just recommend to council voting to change a speed limit, add a stop sign, change parking, et cetera, et cetera. We would always get an engineering study, and that's what goes in that list I referred to.
But the number of curb cuts going on Dorset Street keeps increasing, right? Or curb cuts on the roads that are contributing to it, right? So we're gonna get more traffic and.
Yeah, and that would go into
Yeah.
a study like that. It's not just how are people using it, it's all of those pieces of context.
Okay, create and implement meadow management plans for relevant city-owned properties. Is this right for core? Where is priority related to tree management? Identify meadow needs, locations, and priorities. No, this is. Oh, of course. Never mind. It was stopping 10 minutes ago.
Sorry. These are all the things that.
Is there anything, do you want me to read, does anyone want to add anything to this? Other than just specificity for us?
My comment there was, is it ready for core, right, while the NRCC, while the policy is being developed? I think there may be things that council want to talk about.
So specifically the meadow management or trees also. So meadow management is really a management for each park, the way we have one for Wheeler, which is set to be redone. I believe that's going to be a recommendation from the Parks and Open Space Master Plan is to create a new management plan for each of them. Bedrock's is the only one that's really up to date. So it also takes into account if it is a meadow that has a lot of wetlands, the way that Hubbard is, or a different type of meadow, the way that Wheeler is. So there isn't really an ability to do a catch-all there. Best practices around how often to mow and brush hog. But there are some context specific, and so it would need to be, rather than a citywide policy, a park by park and identify.
So I don't disagree with anything you said. I'm just saying, I guess in my mind, it's not ripe to say, city operations. I just think there's some park by park policy things that, particularly for Hubbard, that you can talk about.
Would it help if I said reframe to as part of the master plan?
Sure.
Okay.
Questions of welcome.
I guess as long as we're staying at a high level for the master plan, because the master plan is intentionally not going down to what do we do with this individual part. It's the lifting up that we made sure that we all did a few months ago. So at a high level, yes, and then what are the recommendations for how we go about doing it in the future?
With a lot of caution around using the word policy on maintenance. For a lot of with this, so I want to make sure that's out there.
I had a little sticky note about the trees, about the public trees, trees on the park strips in particular, is what I was referring to. I think there was something in the document that I submitted. I just didn't, yeah, so a question about that, I don't the fine text here, but the public tree plan is on the priority list, and that includes the issue of the mulch volcanoes and the landscapers doing things to public trees that they shouldn't be doing, that sort of thing. Is that on the list there? Is that like a sub bullet in that item?
So Tom, the public tree plan showing that the city's public trees are well maintained. Are well planned and maintained, it's on core government.
Yes, so we did recently have some updates to our public works specs. If we're gonna talk about this again, so we don't tell people to do mulch improperly. Whenever we hire a contractor to do our maintenance, it's basically around here, right? They should be doing it correctly, but we get help sometimes from private properties that are adjacent to the right of way that decide they want the tree to be mulch. Or on Garden Street where they're required to put the tree and they maybe do it improperly. So we can define a pretty simple maintenance standard about mulch if that is a major issue that you'd like us to update our specs with.
Yeah, because those trees, again, those are valuable public assets. They raise property values, they provide shade, they provide a number of services to the community. In addition to beauty and but I just think that so I see a lot of bad mulching, and those trees are gonna die young because of it. And I'm just wondering, is there anything we can do that's more robust to sort of control that problem? Yeah, anyway, that's.
We don't mulch the majority of trees, right? Or street trees, I'm talking, or certain.
But owners do. They hire landscapers, and the landscapers come.
Property owners come out and.
Right.
Mulch.
So I'm just wondering if we can make it a priority to do something to nip that. Well, it's already gone way beyond, the level that it should, but.
You mean the volcano effect?
Yeah, the volcanoes are they're really damaging to the trees and, cause growing roots. Anyway, that is a priority for me, and I wonder if we could.
So I think what Tom's saying is he can review that section of the.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It becomes an enforcement thing, right? Because I can put it in the standards, but then what is council's expectation here that we're gonna?
Enforce it.
Enforce, yes, okay. So then we've got our arborist, that's his time or something.
Nick put this in the most recent tree plan that was put together. So this issue is addressed in that tree plan. So it's dealing with a enforcement issue. And
well, it's an education issue, right? You gotta have the homeowners tell the landscapers, don't do this, do it this way.
I tell the landscapers, anyway, I think this is.
So if you go into Spear Meadows, there's hundreds of trees and every single one has a mulch volcano about a foot high girdling the tree.
Private roads for a moment, I'll just note, but yeah, but when they're young.
I suspect every one of those trees is either gonna die or suffer. It's unbelievable. It's just one after the other, after the other, Oh, hundreds of them are done improperly. So there has to be something where we approach whoever maintains that entire development. Look, you're doing this wrong, and these are gonna be our trees, and please fix it.
Yeah, or you're gonna have to pay us for the tree,
it's a staffing issue, right? I mean, you don't have someone that can go do that right now.
Well, yeah, we'd be reassigning the arborist to go, and whether it's to education, go knock on doors, track down the landscapers who are hired by private, we're chasing people, right?
Yeah.
The enforcement side. Now, maybe you all want a fine associated with this, but I don't think we're talking about that. Maybe we are, I don't know. There's sort of the.
Yeah, I mean, I think we haven't, enforcement is something that. Maybe
How do we raise it to action?
Yeah, I think education's a big part of it. If you issue just a few fines, people will get the idea of landscaping, but the idea, maybe you find the property owner, and then the property owner says, don't do that to the tree because I'm getting fined for it. And then the landscape, I think there's some education to be done. I just think that there needs to be something, because a lot of public money is going down the drain by mulching trees, which sounds ridiculous, but it's true. So anyway, that's where I'm coming from. On the enforcement issue, we do enforcement, everything is, like we have speed limits. People defy them, but we still have them, and there's still fines associated, for example. So,
So I think what you're hearing from staff is we can look at the DPW specs. We have an arborist who can educate, and we have no ordinance that says we can fine people for over mulching now. Do you want us to bring you an ordinance to that effect?
I would start with education.
I would start, yeah, education seems like.
That's a, Nick can handle that, not you, Nick. It's Nick. Oh.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I lost you. This is one, I know we had this on the first sheet, but we have a priority around homeowners associations, and all these associations write contracts for landscaping services, so they can write things like this into them as well. So to me, that's a nice dovetail of whether it's tree specific or landscaping standards or things like that. I think that's an opportunity for another great partnership with HOAs that we haven't really focused on before.
Great point.
Say, unfortunately, I'm gonna have a hard stop at about 12:40.
Yep, I think we're good.
Just went that out.
So the-
Get food, sorry.
The new things you're adding are the charter change, the pending conversation, graffiti, and details, a conversation about what to do in parallel with the building and thermal implementation plan at a future council meeting. Is there anything you want to recommend we take off our recommended set, or are you deferring that to our recommendation?
We did take off a few things, and it sounds like we need to defer a couple of things. We did reduce a couple of things. Through.
Okay, so you're deferring to our
Yes.
recommendation. Got it. Elizabeth, do you want to say anything?
Well, we didn't, I know we're not getting into specifics, but I would want to make sure that local option tax gets on the legislative conversations specifically. I know you guys are keeping a running list of those things.
Yeah. Good.
Somebody just added another 2%.
So, well, Burlington adjusts theirs all the time. It has between 2.5% and 4% tax. They have charter authority to be able to do that independently. Stowe just put in a charter change request to move from 1% to 2%, and it didn't get moved forward at the legislature.
Jesse, can you read your 4 things again?
The charter change on the building inspection, fast track or move up discussion pennies for paths, graffiti ordinance, and have a council conversation about what aspects of the building and thermal plan you run in parallel to a building and thermal plan.
Land use acquisition, maybe we need to
Oh,
come
right,
back to
the wood one.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so going back. Elizabeth, are you seeing the agenda, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Excellent. So we've blown up our organizational principle. But I think we've hit on all the key questions.
Oh, I just wanted to quickly cover the additional information section, because it sounds like there were a couple.
Well, I think we've
Either
gone
added
through
or
that in a
yeah.
different way.
Yes, exactly.
I guess the note here is, we felt in reading some of your feedback that there were a lot of things that we were doing that we just hadn't told you we were doing. So, and I think we've had some conversations today about things that could be bringing just informational pieces on. So if you ever feel free to ask for that in the future, I guess is the. All right.
No, I'll wait for it.
So for those of you who have been through this with us before, I like for us to go around and do a final kind of check-in, make sure that everyone's shared what they want to share. If you are holding anything that you want to make sure it's on the table, feel free to throw that out there. If you want to celebrate something one of your colleagues has done or offer any final thoughts, just Robin. That's just my suggestion. If you would like to do something else,
This
what's
is
about?
a really impressive process. Every year it gets better. I think we got a lot done. It's really important. Jesse, thank you. Thank you, team. It's clear you put a lot of effort.
I agree with that. And it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to work with all of you every time, or every meeting that we have, especially the city council meetings. Appreciate everybody's hard work, their dedication, and their great knowledge and expertise. Because without it, we wouldn't be the city that we are. Final thought of that is, and I hate to go back to artificial intelligence, right? I can't impress upon you the reduction in work that AI can offer you within Copilot for various activities that you do on a daily basis. And you will not experience that until you actually give it a try. And I'm sure that Nick is or other, people are putting you down that road in training, but it is helping us where I work a lot. And although it can consume gallons of water every time you hit the enter key, as we like to say, it doesn't remove people, it removes friction, right? So those types of things that you do on a daily basis, you will see a productivity enhancement. That's the key. Enhancing productivity means it frees you up to do other stuff, like all the things that we added to your list today. So thank you.
I want to celebrate Tom DePietro. And I'm picking you out, Tom, because you just gave your notice, and you have been a huge contributor to what we're doing here, what we're doing in the city, and you're going to be missed. I'm going to miss you, and just want to thank you for your service, and Sid, I hope that what you move on to brings you great joy.
Thank you.
So.
Well, that means 6 more weeks to school.
Yes, I know. This is an opportunity that I don't know if I'll have again.
You'll see him again.
I know I'll see him again. But being here with the whole leadership team sitting, it's a big transition that we're going through with you leaving, and I just wanted to acknowledge it and appreciate all that you've done for the city.
Ditto.
Ditto to that.
Multiple ditto.
Andrew said the other day he wants you to change your
Good
mind.
luck.
So,
well, I want to make sure Elizabeth, did you want to say something?
No, I was just dittoing.
Okay.
I will make a comment after Beth, though.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is my first go at being a city councilor, and I guess, in addition to what Lori said about Tom, I agree with everything everyone else has said. AI, I'll separate that out because that's a very long discussion. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it, but I am incredibly impressed with the level of professionalism and knowledge and just all around expertise of the team that we have here. And I just want to name the fact that when we went through all these things today that we, were basically asking you to do for the city, we're giving you more work. I'm getting used to this process, so I know that some of this probably was landing hard on certain people in the room. They want us to do just another thing. I will try to be sensitive to that moving forward. But I just want to say I really appreciate everything that everyone is doing and everything that you bring to the table. And I'm happy to have private discussions with any one of you if there's anything you want to talk to me about, the concerns that you have about our process. The burden of what we're asking you to do, because I do believe that we're, to some extent, just every time we do this, I'm sure that it's just another little piece of something that's on your shoulder. I just wanted to name that and express my appreciation for everything. So.
Elizabeth?
Yes, one thing I wanted to just highlight is I think we can't communicate enough with community members. And I know we push a lot of things out, but I also know that a lot of people self-select into what they receive. And specifically, I know on the Hubbard improvements that are being made on the bike path, after so many years, it seems, I know, Tim, you brought this up at the council meeting Monday, but there are folks that are still surprised when longer term projects finally come to fruition. So I just want to continue to encourage all of us to sort of focus on improving communications out to the community and maybe over communicate when necessary. One of the things that I really enjoy most about serving on city council is the balance I see in days like today of kind of aspirational goals and operational excellence. And I think that is really what defines our community. Um, I'm really excited about that. And the person I would like to call out and celebrate today is really Anna. I feel like she has brought a discipline not only to this process, but into data that we are culling to make better decisions as a council and better decisions as staff members. So I appreciate all that work, Anna. Thank you.
I'd be happy to turn over to the staff leadership team too, if there's anything you want to, if you're holding on to anything that you want to highlight or celebrate something one of your colleagues is doing or the council is doing. I would like to say, one, I am so, I feel so honored that especially the council agrees to go through this process with us, because it's just a created thing out of thin air. And I think it really does help us stay aligned as a team and all pulling in the same direction. And I don't think, and looking at Nicholas a little bit, I think we are incredibly privileged as a community that we have a leadership and a team and a council that's willing to do this work together and then stick to it throughout the year. I think it's what is one of our kind of secret strengths as an organization. So thank you for that. And I think it's getting better over time. I think that this process is much better than last year's was much better than last year's was. So we are continuing to make it better together. The idea of the committees first was great. Really appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge for the council that I feel like, and the leadership team, and specific members of the leadership team, that we together as a team have led through some really hard things in the last 4 months, probably more hard things in a condensed period of time than I have led through in my career, in that condensed amount of time. And I think many of you have done that with a huge amount of grace and a huge amount of keeping your eyes on leading through something in a positive way. And I really appreciate how today we were really focused on the positive of what we're doing in the city and what comes next, and not kind of anchored back to hard things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. So thank you for your leadership through pickleball, through cover, through ice, through bond votes, through all of those things. And thank you for your focus on the future and making things better as we go forward. Anything else? Anyone else want to?
Will you ever think about sharing this process, or maybe you have already, but not maybe
Have we? So I feel like I've done a few presentations on this process with managers, and different groups. You know, the Women Leading Government group that founded in a couple of other things like that. But you certainly could. A little case study on it.
I'll save it for your retirement consulting jobs.
She did start off by saying she'd been here how many years and so many days. It's like, yeah. Alert.
It's like Bennett calling me old the other day.
Oh.
I'm not going anywhere. Any brave leadership team member want to pipe up?
I'll jump in just because I think it's really important. If you look at everything on this list, there's very few things that don't touch public works. And I've heard it from a couple of you, it'll likely be early fall before there's a permanent director appointed. There's a ramp up. So I think framing expectations of this work plan and what comes to you in the fall. There'll be Nicholas starts in August, but there will be significant transition during that time. So realistic expectations about what comes before you, I think, is I will be helpful to this team as we work through some pretty big transitions.
Say one thing? Jesse?
Yes.
And I want to add that, just from on a personal note in my role, which I'm kind of like creating as I go, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that is not represented here. And that you don't see in core government necessarily because it's like a new department, et cetera. But like, so, a lot of issues that there's interest in from a lot of you that you've talked to me about, I'm attending webinars, I'm reading about it, I'm understanding. And the fact that they're not here doesn't mean that they're not important. It just means that it might not be the best thing for me to focus my time on at this time, but it doesn't mean that I'm not like kind of trying to stay up to date on all things related to what I do. I just wanted to point that out because I'm sure that that's true for a lot of us in our own thing. It's just that being a different department, I don't have like the same kind of reporting, I guess. Just wanted to.
I just like to say that it's very refreshing to see people who can disagree and still work together. So, I think that the council, the civil discourse that you have and the modeling that people can have different opinions and different thoughts and still work together and talk civilly is a model that we need more of in our time right now. So I just commend you for modeling that for the community.
Second, that's strongly. The boundary country.
I just used AI to create a one-page educational handout for multiple. So.
How many thousands of gallons of water did that?
I can ask you. I don't want to.
Can you send me some pictures of Spear Meadows to insert into the one page?
I didn't say it was any good. I just said I used it.
How many joules of natural gas for electricity did that use? Okay, we're good. Okay, item 6, which is other business. Is there any other business besides hunger? So then a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Nice job, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Hope you feel better.
I'm gonna go get my freshly cooked croissant in my kitchen.